Welcome to Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes on CW11.
Hey, welcome into Home Track Heroes right here on CW11 as we got a action-packed show ahead of us. I'm so excited for it. We get to go to the 5/8 mile big track for the first time all year long. Kyler Hope, Caleb Hart up here in the booth with you guys for it all.
Very, very cool show that we got on tap for you today. The 5/8, of course, the big track, always one of the tentpole events here at Evergreen Speedway. The Pro Late model is going to show off the Mark Galloway Shootout coming up here on Home Track Heroes. And gut feel, I think you guys are in for a pretty good afternoon here of racing. Weather's going to cooperate. We're about ready to have a good time.
Yeah, we're due for some good weather, especially for the Pro Late Model guys. They've had, I think, a race and a half, 2 races total, and a lot of sitting and watching the rain. So they're definitely due for some sunshine. But first, before we get to them later on in the show, we got all of our support divisions on the 3/8 mile and some of the best support divisions in the Northwest. We got the Northwest Vintage Modifieds that you see on track right now. We got the Legends, the Street Stocks, and the Mini Stocks all on tap as well. But first, let's get to know the starting lineup for these awesome-looking vintage modifieds. Up on the front row, we got the 7 of Mike Clother, sponsored by Kevin and Scott Wrinkle, and his outside the 57 Shane Strimple, sponsored by Aaron's Olympic 4x4.
Row number 2, Cale Cheth, the First Day Electric. Number 23, Vintage Mod, Jason Quatso next to him. That is Vintage Mod number 8, sponsorless, at least at the moment.
At least at the moment. Row number 3 is made up of the 2 of Vince Conwell, sponsored by Northwest Concrete Cutting, and his outside the 30, the always fast Kyton Jones, sponsored by Benchmark Barrels.
Speaking of always fast, Steve Woods starting 7th on the field in the First Day Electric number 22. As you can see them picking up the pace early 30 times around on the 3/8 mile as we go green. And look at the speed these vintage mods are carrying down into turn number 1.
Yeah, first green flag, and we're going to go 3 wide. Waste no time to get some good action going. We're going to go 3 wide for the race lead. Cale Cheth and that 23 going way low. Now it's going to bring the 2 of Vince Conwell as well. And the 7, Mike Clother getting shuffled way out. Possibly some issues on that 7 machine. Maybe cut a tire, so a little bit of contact right there as he's way off the pace. But up front, Cale Cheth leading lap number 1.
Nice move. Bold move down to the inside. Picks up the spot. Ooh, got the cool onboard. Nice angle coming there out of the 30. That's Kyton Jones's car, is it not?
Yep, that is. And it's awesome looking. You can really see the detail on the paintwork on the side right there. A little bit of, I think, barbed wire. Is that the correct term for that?
Yep,
or
absolutely.
Some little chain link going. And it just looks really cool hanging right there on that side Nerf bar. And with these big open wheel cars, it's a really cool vantage point to see. You really get to see him use up all of that asphalt on the back stretch, almost ducking that right front tire into the dirt. But yeah, such a cool vantage point right here. Brought to you by Brand Hood Promotions. She does awesome work helping out all these GoPros that you see on track. Her and Garrett Gucciolo will bring you all the awesome onboards all night long.
Nice. So keep an eye on the right front there of the Kyton Jones car and see how much he's making that suspension work on it. I mean, you can see that coil spring and that shock coming up and down and up and down, and especially as he gets down onto the back straightaway as well. We've talked a lot about that extra runoff that's getting used in the backstretch, and right now as Kyton is battling for third on the inside of it, not as great an advantage because last time you saw him kind of going outside and using the high side of it, but certainly really putting his suspension to the test as we got a battle for the lead up in front.
Yep, like you mentioned, Steve Woods also always fast in that 22 machine. He's looking to the outside at Cale Cheth, trying to take over the race lead very early in this one, just 5 laps in, coming from the back of the pack to the front, and he's going to go side by side with Cale into 3 and out of turn 4. It looks like we're going to have a new race leader this time off of turn number 4. That is the 22 of Steve Woods.
Yep, Woods moving and shaking early, says, yeah, I'm starting in the back, but let's not waste any time. To the front and up into where I can dictate the race. Now, meanwhile, Jones took the opportunity, swing up and around, make his way up into second. That's going to be a big move for him because we have seen the Woods car very strong, but long runs every once in a while. Some guys have been able to roll in on him. There's Jones right on his back bumper going into turn number 2.
Yeah, the 30 of Kyton Jones, awesome guy to talk to. I mean, you can really tell his passion for racing, and you know he doesn't like finishing second, and he has trailed behind that 22 machine quite a few times, and he would love nothing more on the Galloway Shootout weekend to hunt down the 22 and pass him for the race lead. He's got 22 laps to do so I mean, they're kind of checking out from third place Cale Cheth right now in the 8 of Quatso, so he knows he has a little bit of breathing room, not a ton of pressure behind him. He can start playing with some different lines, see where he might be faster, or see where he might be slower than Woods, and maybe see where Woods might be making some mistakes. He can try to capitalize or push him to make more mistakes like that later on in the event.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. I mean, with 21 laps to go, you can sit there and analyze for a little bit. You don't want to wait too long because eventually you run into a problem where you might get paralysis by analysis, but you can at least watch for a few laps, just like you said, assess where Jones is going in, or assess where Woods is going in, where he's the fastest and where you've got an opportunity to attack. And then, in my mind, you want to put relentless pressure on. You want to be high, you want to be low, you want to be forcing him to think every lap. And when you're thinking and not just racing and reacting, that tends to be when you make mistakes.
Exactly, yeah, and the best way to do that is to fill up the guy's rearview mirror, which is exactly what Kyton Jones is doing, putting all sorts of pressure on the back of the 22 of Steve Woods, and some great racing here with the vintage modifieds. Not a huge car count for them, but some great battles. As you see, the battle for third still going on really well between Cale Cheth and Quazzo, but up front is where we're going to keep our eyes, because Kyton Jones is really not letting Steve Woods check away, and it's interesting to see their different lines, especially down to 1 and 2. You see Steve Woods start to drift up a lot more, and even in 3 and 4 than Kyton Jones is, and we'll flash back to that battle for third. Like I mentioned, Cale Cheth and Jason Quazzo still battling hard for that final spot on the podium. Cale Cheth, he started inside of row number 2 and kind of hung out in that third spot all race long, and Quazzo has put a lot of pressure on him the entire time.
Quazzo is just a car length back of him, and you can see they're running a very similar line between the two of them, as opposed to those front two who have very distinctly different ways of getting into and out of the corner. Doesn't mean it's not equally fast, and that's one of the cool things about the 3/8 mile here on Evergreen Speedway, is there are multiple lines that you can choose to race in that provide very similar lap times. Just depends on what kind of setup you got into the race car. And you are watching as we speak right now, Cheth and Quazzo still just a car length off from each other and waiting for something to break loose. Somebody to get a tire heated up a little too much, or again, maybe just miss an entry a little bit going into the first and second corner. It looks like Quazzo has rolled in a little bit as they go into turn number 3.
Yeah, you mentioned how there's a lot of different lines around this 3/8 mile oval that drivers can take and utilize to their advantage, and especially in a class as diverse as the vintage modifieds. You saw Quazzo looking to the inside that time in turn number 1. There's definitely a big disposition between the different cars that you're driving, and that can really dictate what kind of line that your car wants to run. And even if it's not the fastest line for another car, it's the fastest line for your car, and each car can be equally as fast. As we flash back up to Kyton Jones, still putting all sorts of pressure on Steve Woods, hasn't let that 22 check out at all. So this battle for the race lead's been 17 coming on 18 laps deep, and they've really not let each other out of each other's pockets.
That might be the first time in recent memory that Woods got away a little bit from Jones, and you can see the distinct difference, especially from that turn 1 cam, about how those two cars enter turn number 1. Jones has a little bit of a flatter entry, Woods has a little flatter entry. Jones swinging a little bit wider as we're going to flash back now. Race for third. Quazzo got to the inside. And a taparoo coming through the corner. Good job backing out of it, not turning him all the way around. Cheth's going to hold the third spot for the time being.
Yeah, Quazzo had a really good run last time through turns, or down the front straightaway into turns 1 and 2. Was able to get the inside of Cale and tried to keep it all the way pinched in there, all the way down the back straightaway into turn 3. And that little bit of contact, like you mentioned, he backed out of it, let Cale gather himself back up, and starts to apply the pressure once again with 10 laps to go. This battle for third, still just as tight as the battle up front, as they continue to go through turns 1 and 2. Quazzo, I think, just might have the faster car, but just can't quite find that line to get to the inside or outside of Cale and carry the momentum all the way around him.
Yeah, you're looking to cover the other guy. That means that your front tires are up to the middle of his door panel, right? At that point in time, the guy up front's got to kind of really seed the line if you're doing the sportsmanship racing here on pavement, but Quazzo hasn't been able to get there yet. It's not enough to just get a nose. You kind of got to get him to where you would say, okay, line's yours, clear inside. So far, Cheth's doing a good job of the few times that he has opened the door, getting it slammed shut just in time to make sure Quazzo doesn't get by him.
Exactly, yeah, Cale doing a great job. And we've seen Cale in years past run street stocks here at Evergreen Speedway, so definitely very familiar with the 3/8 mile oval. Obviously, a little bit of touch-up work with the backstretch being widened a little bit, so a little bit different for him, but he's still showing that he knows his way around this 3/8 mile of Evergreen Speedway, and continues to hold on to that third and final spot on the podium with just 7 laps remaining, 6.5 laps to go down the back straightaway. Quazzo still trying to find a way around the 23. It just does not quite have enough. Looks like he might be falling off a little bit, maybe used up too much of his tire, or heated him up a little too much trying to get around him earlier in the race.
These cars very evenly matched, as you see. I mean, they've got to be running lap times within hundreds of seconds between each other. So we're going to look back up at the front. Woods finally putting a little bit of distance between himself and Kyton Jones with 5 laps to go. That's got to be a welcome sight for him, although you see Kyton with a good turn 1, kind of chopped into it a little bit. Woods expands the lead going down the back straightaway, coming into 4 to go, and Woods now, he's got enough space in between him that if he does make a little error, he's got plenty of time to recover and still hold on to that top spot.
Exactly, and you see the gap all the way back to right there, 3rd and 4th place. So the 2 leaders have quite the lead over the rest of the pack, but Kyton Jones, I think he has think he started driving it in a little bit harder than he had been all race, just trying to get anything he can out of the corner. And you can especially see it down in turn number 1. You see him drive it in so much deeper than Steve Woods, but just can't quite get all the power back to the ground smooth enough to be able to make up enough ground to catch Steve Woods, as he has just now 2.5 laps to try to make something happen, or hope that Steve makes a pretty costly mistake to allow Kyten to get back to the back bumper.
Every action has an equal and positive reaction, I think is close to what the saying is. I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention in school at that point in time. But you drive it in harder, the car's going to react middle of the turn and coming off, whereas you take it a little bit easier going in, you're going to be able to roll into the throttle a little bit sooner mid-corner and coming off. It's a balancing act that you got to decide how you want to, again, battle plan and attack. Looks like today the plan of attack worked perfectly for Steve Woods as he has opened her up down the back straightaway, and it looks like another feature win coming for the 22.
Yep, coming off turn number 4 for the final time. Steve Woods going to capture the first checkered flag of the Mark Galloway Shootout weekend. Kyten Jones comes home second. Cale Cheth coming home third. Barely over Quatso right here as they coming across the start-finish line. Yep, Cale Cheth was able to hang on over Quatso. It's a great battle there for third, as well as we'll head on down to the Angel Wins winners platform for the first time tonight as we get set for a few more main events coming up when we come back.
All right, Steve, you had Kyten chasing you throughout the race. What was that like?
It was rough, man. I've never had to look in my mirror so much. My car was so loose on entry and through the center. It was a hot, greasy track, and I was all over the place.
How does the heat affect the track when you're out there?
And this is a real slippery track tonight.
Have anyone you'd like to thank for tonight?
Yeah, my wife right here, my kids, my dad, all the family and friends that come out, all the fans out here. First Day Electric, AccuVac, Furnace Duct Cleaning, Capinelli Cranes, and I think that's about it.
Nice to be out here, Mark Galloway Shootout night.
Yeah, it's fun to race in front of such an awesome crowd. Such a cool event, and just glad to be a part of it.
Do you have anyone you'd like to thank for your performance tonight?
I got a couple sponsors: Benchmark Barrels, Berg's Custom Cylinder Heads. My dad, working our butts off on this car, trying to catch Steve. We got a little bit of work to do, but we'll get there.
Well, what was it like being out here on Evergreen Speedway's Mark Galloway Shootout night?
Very hot. Really, really hot.
How was that race?
It was good. Finally, the car was handling right. And the motor was running right, and everything was in good order.
Have anyone you'd like to thank for your performance tonight?
My grandpa, John Woods, my uncle Steve, First Day Electric, Gino Campanelli Crane, all my family and friends that came out.
Welcome back here to Home Track Heroes on CW11. Glad to have you in with us here on a Sunday. Caleb Hart, Kyler Hope, and as fun as vintage mods were, green to white to checkered, no stoppages.
Nice and easy.
Let's see if we can do it again. It's mini stock time. The BECU mini stock's coming up next for their 30-lap A feature, and a nice field of cars ready for us.
Yep, we're rolling out onto the nice sunny racetrack, which I just will not stop talking about because I love how we finally have some sunshine here
About
at Evergreen
time.
Speedway.
Yes.
It's been a dark and gloomy 2022 so far, but yep, mini stocks out on the racetrack, and let's see how this lineup looks. We got a couple new faces coming out here finally for the first time in 2022. On the front row, we got the 21J of Justin Brave, sponsored by Clean Crawls. His outside the 97 and Nat Barber, sponsored by Racers Against Child Abuse.
Row number 2, I should say. A couple of drivers who have been pretty close during the course of the year. Jimmy Absher on the inside, and the 26 Absher Build LLC, his sponsor. Lane Sunholm next to him, undefeated on the year in the 18 in the Mark Whedon Farmers Insurance car.
And then we got Travis Woodward making his appearance for the first time in 2022 behind the wheel of the 16 Simon & Son towing machine, and his outside the 32 of Chase Garner, sponsored by HCI Steel Buildings.
Row number 4, Jason Wilson in the 20 car on the inside, and it's Ken the Cruiser Legault, the Daddy O Doc John number 22 outside row 4.
Then we got the 7 of Cassidy Sunholm, sponsored by John Haynes at J2 Racing Parts, and her outside 72 of Ronnie Absher, sponsored by US Seafoods.
Lyndon Smith, the 221 PRCBD.com. Tiffany Angbong, the 27 Erickson Real Estate.
And then we got the 24 of Jaden Kelly, sponsored by Tom's Automotive, and the 07 is Zach Bristol, sponsored by Gourmet Latte, rounding out the field as the green flag is in the air, and Lane Sunholm wasting no time to get to the outside of Nat Barber up on the front row, battling hard up there. They just left Justin Brave on the inside line in the dust, and coming across the start-finish line, first time time by, it's going to be the 18 Lane Sunholm, followed very closely by Nat Barber, the 97.
Yeah, Barber from the outside of the front row also got an excellent start, but that's kind of tough when you had Sunholm right behind you. And as good as Lane has been on the top side of the raceway this year, already with a nose ahead. Nat doing a good job not letting him get too far out, though, as they're side by side off turn 4 for the lead.
Yeah, and there's some pretty good contact right there between the 26 of Absher and the 21J, Justin Brave, entering turn number 3. Everyone able to keep it straight for now. We'll have to keep an eye on that as maybe some retaliation could be in store, because these drivers tend to not have the shortest memories when it comes to stuff like that.
They're like an elephant. They never forget, right? Well, good job by Barber sticking hard with Sunholm, making him work for it in the outside groove. Lane carrying just a little more speed in and around in the outside of the corner. Let's see if he comes down and tries to take the line away from Nat. He will do so as they're already into slower traffic. And there's Absher kind of pedaling hard. He's doing the Fred Flintstone, foot on the ground, trying to catch on up. But your top 3 shooting away from the rest of the field early here in this bank.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, the 97 of Nat Barber doing a great job. Probably the best job we've seen anyone all year, being able to keep Lane Sunholm at bay for the most part, battling hard up there for the top spot. And Nat really has not let the 18 Lane Sunholm get away that far. As we take a look at the speed shot camera, comes Absher in 3rd, and then right there, the 21J, Justin Brave in 4th, and then 5th place is the 32 of Chase Gardner. So it's been a pretty good battle up front. I mean, a few guys we saw last week up on the podium inside the top 5 hanging out. So it's definitely people starting to get the car underneath them, starting to get figured out. It's been hard this year with the amount of rain and different weather conditions they've had to deal with. But this is the first real nice and dry night for the mini stocks in a while. As we take a look back at the 22 of Ken Legault and the 16 of Travis Woodward, like I mentioned. Travis's first time out. Last week we saw Mike Marthaler in the car shaking it down. So Travis Woodward out here battling hard in the 16, trying to just get inside the top 6, I believe, as he looks to the inside of Legault, going down the front straightaway, getting out the spot at that time of the line. Nice
looking run there by Woodward. He circles to the inside of 1 and 2, kind of used the slower car as a bit of a pick to hold up Legault for just a second. That allows him to get away and secure the position. Down the back straightaway, Legault's going to kind of pull it into line and go into chase mode, see if he can run Woodward down, but we're going to flash back forward to your leader, and once again, Lane Sunholm in the always visible 18. Yep. Check it out.
A little bit of shine on the chrome numbers as he goes down the back straightaways. Here's the battle for second, really heating up now. It's the 97, Nat Barber, the 26 of Jimmy Absher, like you mentioned. And here comes the 21 of Justin Brave closing in as well. So tight 3-car battle for second, third, and fourth right here as they got on the back straightaway, still with 21 laps to go.
Yeah, long time for this to sort out through. We're only a third of the way through the race at this point. Barber continuing to hold that second position, and there's the race for third. Brave ducking to the inside, going into turn number 1.
Yeah, like I mentioned, there was some contact earlier between these two, so we'll see how short of memory Justin Brave's going to have if he's going to race Jimmy a little bit harder than maybe he would normally as they go down into turns 3 and 4. 21 on the inside. That is Justin Brave, your pole sitter, trying to take over the third spot, and he will this time at the line over Jimmy Absher. Jimmy Absher still hanging out on the outside line, that 26 machine. Going to tuck in line here ever so slightly. Not quite clear because they go down to turn number 3.
They are giving themselves just enough room through 3 and 4. No contact yet, but again, slower traffic going to make a big deal here. And it's going to be Brave using it to his advantage again, using it as like a basketball-style screen or a pick, and that forces Absher off the pace a little bit, gives Brave a little bit of extra run, and Brave is up there challenging Barber now.
Yeah, huge run right there for Justin Brave. Like you said, he's able to use the lap car as enough of a pick to take over the second spot or the third spot completely, and now really starting to put the pressure on Nat Barber. And a few weeks ago in the mini stocks, it was a wet night, and Justin Brave overdrove into turn number 3 and slid up into the front of Nat Barber, ending Nat Barber's night early. So possibly some little bit of a feud between these two drivers as well, as like you mentioned, race car drivers, they don't forget. No, they don't ever forget.
They do not. Now here's the flip side of that is it seems like Nat has been on the wrong end of nearly every contact that has happened at this point in time of the year. So he's deserving some good luck and some clean racing, hopefully between second and third. Brave doing a nice job making Nat really think about it. And you can see Barber having to play some defense as he's hugging the white stripe at the bottom of 1 and 2. Brave thinking about making a run down the back straightaway. You can see he's carrying some good straightaway speed, and he's going to poke his nose to the outside. Coming through 3 and 4. Nice run through the middle of the corner. Going to duck it in back down low. Going to see if he can beat him to the bottom of the turn. Swings back out wide, and Barber's got to be seeing this. His mirror is just all 21 car going left, right, left, right.
Yeah,
like playing the Contra code in behind him.
Exactly, yeah, the 97 Nat Barber, you can really see on the front stretch camera how much he ducks down to the bottom to really protect that inside line, and he's allowing Justin to get to his outside, and hey, if you're going to pass me, go a long way around. You're not getting to the inside of me, and Nat's doing a really good job playing defense mode in that 97 machine, really trying to hang on. Remind you, this is only for second place. Lane Sunholm in the 18 car is way out up front with the race lead, and that's nothing new here on Home Track Heroes. If you've tuned in and seen the mini stocks at all this year, as we continue to watch this battle for second really take place, as a little bit of lap traffic going to get tight down there in turn number 1.
Yeah, they hugged the bottom really nice, though, and it really didn't affect Barber's entrance to the corner, which was a big part there for Nat. Nat actually got away from Brave a little bit through the middle of the turn and has added just enough breathing room that he can reassess and go back at it. Brave, hard on the hammer, though, reeling him back in, and you can see that little bit of gap the Barber made up basically gone as he rolls down the back straightaway, and Brave again on the attack looking for position number 2.
Yep. As we have just now 10 laps to go here in the BECU Mini Stock main event. This segment is brought to you by Tire Pros. Tire Pros is the official tire dealer of Evergreen Speedway. Tire Pros is your one-stop shop tire retailer where honesty is the best policy, and they have a hassle-free guarantee. Tire Pros has all the national brands and offers a nationwide warranty on your tires. Go to TirePros.com to find out more as we continue to watch Nat Barber hold off the 21J of Justin Brave.
It's interesting. You know, we talk a lot about tire wear. Everybody out there knows that there is a tire shortage, and it has been hard to get new rubber for these guys. One of the things that Brave's doing by making that big swing coming out is that adds a little bit of heat, adds a little bit of abrasion, and wears the tire out a little bit. The most important tire on the front-wheel drive mini stock is the right front, and that's the one taking the most abuse when he goes out and does something like that. So you wonder if there's going to be a short-term or long-term effect on him making kind of that wild swing of peek in, swing out wide, come back inside that might benefit Barber in the long term here in this race.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, like you mentioned, that right front tire, you definitely want to try to keep it as cool as possible, keep as much grip in it as possible. But when you're hard on the brakes like that, slinging the car around really hard in the corners and throttling it up, that right front tire is just eating up all that rubber it's got on it. And so far, Nat's doing a good job of being able to hang on and keep the 21J behind him, but we'll see how much longer he's able to do that, because it seems like Justin Brave's starting to get impatient. He's got is that a tow strap hanging out behind the 21 now?
Something. I'm not sure. We know it's not a boat anchor because he's been awfully quick here today, but you're spot on that one. We'll see what he's got. He's certainly making Barber work hard for it. That the tire thing is exacerbated by the hot day that we have, too. You know, the warm weather is something. Tow strap. Well, they must use that to hold the car down on the trailer. But
hopefully it's not meant to hold anything else too tight.
Yeah, no kidding. Either way, it's worse here with the high temps because hot temperature is a little more abrasive on the racetrack. You're going to burn more of that rubber quickly. Meanwhile, hot temps not affecting Lane Sunholm. He's out cruising.
Yep, nice Saturday drive for him.
Probably got the cell phone out in the car. He's probably ordering pizza. Meet him in the pit area.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, why not at this point? He's hanging out, just 3 laps to go. Got about a half a track lead over second place Nat Barber and Justin Brave, who've been nose to tail almost the entire race, it seems like, with Jimmy Apsher not far behind in 4th place. So it's been a great battle to watch everywhere except where Lane Sunholm's at, because he's just up front cruising. 2 laps to go.
Makes it easy. You think he's a Pinterest guy? You think he's up there surfing cookie recipes on Pinterest at the moment? I could totally see Lane as a Pinterest guy.
Well, we'll leave that one for debate. I'm going to go with no. The Lane's not on Pinterest.
See, we're going to agree to disagree. As he comes to take the white flag one more time around for Lane Sunholm, looking to continue the undefeated run here on the year, and looks like he's going to do it with ease.
Yep, going down the back straightaway for the final time is that 18 machine of Lane Sunholm. Got to go around lap traffic one more time with Tiffany Ingbaum in the 27 off of turn number 4, and he's able to do it. Checkered flag is out for Lane Sunholm, and we keep an eye out for that orange number 97. That would be the second place. Nat Barber right there, just able to hold off Justin Brave for 3rd, and Jimmy Apsher comes home P number 4. And we're actually getting told that the 18 of Lane Sunholm did not pass post-race tech. So that's going to be the first X on his racing resume all year long, and that's going to hand the win over to Nat Barber.
Nat, I think after watching that performance and you holding off Justin, it's fair to say you know this track fairly well.
Yeah, I've done a couple laps. I started racing in this division in '95, so yeah, a couple laps. But it's just as fun as it ever was, and I don't want to give it up. I love it coming out here, and especially when my car's actually running good, so that makes a difference. And last 2 races in a row, I've gotten crashed through no fault of my own, and just been thrashing to get it back out here. And pretty much, I got to thank everybody that helps me out, and Mike Honcho and Dylan Bewald and my wife Amy and everybody else, and everyone that supports us with Racers Against Child Abuse. Appreciate it.
Justin, it was actually a really fun race to watch. You and Nat Barber kind of having that battle back and forth, but it just seemed like he was taking that line to not allow you to get by.
Yeah, he just had what it took to let me by. He did a great job. Shout out to him. I tried to get around him, but I just couldn't make it stick, and I just didn't want to dive bubble him, and it ended up taking us out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's so hot in there, I'm dying, but it was a great time, and I couldn't be happier to be here. Thank you to Clean Calls Racing, Cascade Screen, J2 Racing, Entre Marketing, my mom and my dad, Craig and Pauline, and everyone that's helped me get here. I cannot thank you enough. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're tuned in to another great edition of Home Track Heroes on the CW11. I am Caleb Hart. He is Kyler Hope, and we move on to your favorite division. It's Street Stock time. They have been a ton of fun all year long, and we've got another very talented field ready to go for another 30-lap A-main on the 3/8.
Exactly. Like you mentioned, one of my favorite divisions here at Evergreen Speedway, and it's going to be the first time that they have a really, really hot and a really, really slippery track to deal with, which is going to make the racing action that much more exciting. And let's get to know the starting lineup. I mean, this guy, he's been in the center of all the action, it seems like this year. The 85 Jim Fody, he's been fun to watch. A lot of work in the offseason. He's got that 85 machine, faster than we've seen in a while, and I think he's due for a good finish. He's been up there battling hard, but just hasn't quite put all the pieces together yet.
Yeah, nice to see the speed and time effort paying off in terms of a better result. Outside of him, Calvin Miller, the 49, Northwest Poly Services Concrete Lifting Company. They make up the front row. The second row is Ted Lindgren's 88. American Image Hair Replacement is sponsor. Mike Marthaler next to him in the beautiful 44 car. Direct Carpet Cleaning and House Cleaning.
Row number 3, you got the 51 of Jeff Watson, sponsored by Sonoma County Excavating. To his outside the 3, the always fast Jesse Jensen, sponsored by Dunston Bradley Industrial.
Defending track champion Mark Hubbard, inside row 4, Interstate Batteries number 41 car. Doug Poyer next to him in the Ox Chassis number 57.
We got the 14 of Colin Hubbard, sponsored by Let's Act Cancer on the inside of the next row. The 69 of Austin Camp, his outside, sponsored by Ad Taxi. 22 of Kenny Erickson, sponsored by AFC Forestry. Then the 03 of Blaine Fagerly,
there you
sponsored by Stingray Auto Repair, and then Brent Rohr coming down from Canada, sponsored by Harding Motorsports, the 15, rounding out the field.
That's a good start for Jim Fody in the 85 cars. He's going to come around, lead lap number 1. He's got a gaggle of cars going 2 wide, almost 3 wide in behind him down the front straightaway. So let's see what Fody can do now out in front of the field and set the pace for a little bit. It's Lindgren who's sitting in second, trying to run him down, and Marthaler's 44 car in the third spot.
Yep, and then Jesse Jensen in the 3 already moved up to 4th. He had a really good start on that outside lane, and it really got moving quick, and him and Marthaler really moved forward, and they kind of left Calvin Miller in the dust. Something possibly going wrong with the 49 machine, because he was outside of row number 1, and he's fallen back to the 6th spot quickly. But up front, it is the 85 of Jim Fody leading the way the first couple laps right here. And then Ted Lindgren, I mean, he had quite the event last time out here. Blew a motor in practice, went out, or took the car home, got the new motor in, got here just before the main event started. So a little bit more of a calm day for Ted Lindgren, not having to rush home and do motor change in the middle of the day.
For sure, and it's showing well here in a good early race result. Here's something that's been very telling and very consistent on the year. Jesse Jensen and the 3 car have been able to race in whatever groove they want to. As right now, he storms past Marthaler, now working side by side with Lindgren down the back straightaway. Jensen nosing ahead, outside groove, no big deal for the Dirt Cruiswick-owned cars. He's got second off the corner.
Exactly, yeah. And while these 4 have been battling, it's allowed the 57 Doug Poyer to come in the mix, as Marthaler's going to look to the inside of Lindgren now, try and take over that 3rd spot in that 44 machine, as Poyer's right there in tow as well. So some really good battles all throughout the top 5 early in this one, just 5 laps down. It's been all Jim Fody up in the 85, but boy, he has a mirror full of Jesse Jensen in that 3 machine.
Well, Jim, time to pull whatever you got in your bag of tricks out to make life difficult on Jensen. Jensen Going to work to the middle groove coming off turn number 2, and you can just kind of smell it. He is setting up that pull to the side of him mid-turn and maybe get him here on corner exit pass. Meanwhile, that 3-car battle behind him getting really good, but we have a new leader at the line. It is Jesse Jensen.
Yeah, that 3 machine definitely working on the outside, and Jim Fody was not giving any room. But I don't see any door marks on either of those cars, but they were really close to touching as Mike Marthaler solely in that 3rd spot now as he's able to get around Lindgren. But Jim Fody, he's putting up quite the fight in the 85 machine on the inside of the 3. Got really loose that time off of turn number 4, and that's going to allow the 3 of Jesse Jensen to complete the pass that time by 8 laps down, 22 to go here in the street stocks.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit during the Vintage Modified. That's where do you want to pick up the throttle and what does that do to the rest of the car? You look at it, and Fody might have picked up the throttle before he really had the car at its optimum turning axis in the corner. Bust the back end loose a little bit. That cost him some drive, cost him some spot. Bye-bye Jesse Jensen. Now Marthaler up in the 3rd spot is starting to put some pressure on him, and that's good to see. Marthaler, kind of like Nat Barber, has been caught up in a lot of other people's shenanigans over the course of this year, so nice to see him having a nice clean run in 3rd, at least for the time being.
Yeah, it seems like almost every other week we've seen Mike Marthaler facing the wrong way off someone else's bumper, so yeah, it's definitely good to see him having a nice solid run, sitting right now in the 3rd position, and he's been able to hunt down the 85 Jim Fody once Jesse Jensen got around him, so the 44 starting to put some pressure on for that 2nd spot on the podium with Doug Poirier right there behind him, and the 88 Ted Lindgren sitting there in 5th, and the 51 Jeff Watson, he's kind of cleared the rest of that melee behind them, and he starts to reel in these top 5 as well.
Marthaler, you get the feeling he knows that he can't sit around and follow Fody in the inside groove for too long here, as Poirier has been coming fast to the point where Poirier is nearly pulled to the inside of Marthaler as he begins to make his outside move to try to get around Fody. This race for 2nd about to get super interesting with Fody, Marthaler, and a rapidly closing Doug Poirier trying to make things really interesting for 3rd.
Exactly, yeah. You saw Marthaler take a look to the outside of Jim in 3 and 4 a few laps ago, and that allowed Poirier to get to the inside of him momentarily, and now this 2nd through 5th position really nose to tail. Marthaler got a little bit loose that time off of turn number 2. That's going to allow Poirier to get a run to the inside. Just not enough, like you mentioned. It's normally if you get the tires up to about their door, so that's then it's a little bit more of a, hey, you have the line, take it, like right here you see going in turn number 1. Marthaler kind of letting him have that line, but it's by no means just allowing him to get by you cleanly.
Yeah, we've seen that these street stocks can run the middle to outside groove. We've seen Jensen do it. Mark Hubbard's really been the other guy who's been consistently up in there, but doesn't look like Marthaler quite has the same get up and go once he got to the middle. As now he's in danger of falling in another position. A good rally by Lindgren, who dropped a few spots, but looking to pick another one up here coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, great run that time from the 88 machine of Ted Lindgren. Was able to kind of follow the tire tracks of Doug Poirier in front of him to get to the inside of the 44. Marthaler trying to take over the 4th spot inside the top 5 right now, and he's going to do so. Marthaler, I think, is going to kind of check in the line, fall into line, and see what happens in front of him. As now Ted Lindgren's going to set his sights on the 57 of Doug Poirier and try to take over the 3rd spot on the podium. But right just like that, Jeff Watson and Mark Hubbard both come in the picture as well.
Yeah, that pack that was 2 through 5. Now it's 2 through 7 really gathering up and racing for position, as we're going to watch Poirier try to put the moves on Jim Fody, but man, Fody having a great race up in front. He turned away that challenge from Marthaler, and now let's see if he's up to the challenge of Doug Poirier, who's all over him for 2nd, and Lindgren starting to put the front bumper to the rear bumper of Poirier. Going for position number 3 here. Poirier feels it and starts hammering the throttle a little bit harder, coming after Fody for 2nd.
Yeah, exactly. Like we mentioned, 2nd through 7th on your screen right now. So great battle with the rest of the pack. Jesse Jensen's checked out up front, but before this battle gets a little bit more too intense, this segment is brought to you by Bardall. Bardall Manufacturing, located in Seattle, is a world leader in automotive lubricants with oils, additives, and lubricants for your car, truck, boat, or motorized toy. Pick the brand racers around the world rely on. Bardall, celebrating over 82 years in business and operating in 90 countries, make Bardall your brand, as this top 7 have really come close together.
Man, they just squeezed up even more. And you see Lindgren right in on the back of Poirier, and there's Hubbard working that outside groove like we talked about, trying to get something going up and around Watson, and Watson says, all right, what's good for the goose might be good for the gander, as he starts peeking to the outside of Marthaler, trying to move up into 5th.
Yeah, it's almost like Jim is holding up the rest of these cars, and each driver thinks that they're a little bit faster than the guy in front of them until they get to their outside and realize, maybe all the grip's not there, maybe that outside line isn't quite worked in enough, as it's all been nose to tail on that inside line for a majority of this race. Mark Hubbard, like you mentioned, one of the best at making the outside line work, and he's not even able to get to the outside of Watson right now as we continue to watch Jim Fody lead this pack as Poyer maybe starting to look at the outside line just a little bit.
Shows you what a good job Fody's doing, too, on the inside as he is hugging that white line, keeping a lot of speed. There goes Poyer to the outside. And to the inside, Lindgren's going to try to make it difficult for him. Poyer managed to swing off the corner and not give up the goose on the inside groove. And he is right on the back of Fody coming through turn number 2. Door opens for Lindgren. Lindgren kicks up a little bit of dust trying to get inside of Poyer. And they both fall back a little ways from Fody as we're approaching 5 to go.
Yeah, he got way down in there coming off of turn number 2, trying to just to get as low as possible to get to the inside of 57. Meanwhile, you see the 41 of Mark Hubbard getting to the outside of Jeff Watson. And he looks like he's going to be able to make that work and look to the outside of Mike Marthaler while he's at it. So we'll keep an eye on the 41 of Mark Hubbard as he's starting to make some good moves here late as we still just have 5 laps to go. 2nd through 7th still on your screen with Jesse Jensen checked out from the rest of them.
Man, they are just leaning on each other a little bit. And I'm watching Poyer and Lindgren really, really close. There's a lot of front bumper getting used sideways for a couple of seconds. Squirrely coming through, and Hubbard's going to jump on the opportunity to get around Lindgren.
Yeah, that's best case scenario right there for Mark Hubbard, having the inside line get really choked up by a mistake by one of the drivers and just allowed Hubbard just to go all the way around the outside. Got around Marthaler, and now he's side by side with Ted Lindgren. As you saw just Ted drive it way in, get really loose on entry, and those tires have got to be screaming now. They got to have next to no grip as they go down turn number 3.
I'm going to be fascinated to see if they come off and have tire attempts. Oh, Lindgren into Hubbard. Contact made. Those two around. Nice driving by the rest of them to avoid it, but something finally broke loose in that pack, and unfortunately, it was the 88 and the 41 who are now facing the wrong direction.
Yeah, tough right there. We just mentioned how loose Ted Lindgren got driving it in on turn number 2 a few laps ago, and just did the same thing again right here in turn number 3. Got really loose, and unfortunately, just to his outside was the 41 of Hubbard. We're going to go on board with Jeff Watson, and looking into the sunlight, that's got to be tough, and all of a sudden you see the 88 coming across your nose. Phenomenal job by 51 Jeff Watson right there in that scenario.
That was a beautiful job. Let's get a look at it from the Lindgren cockpit into the corner. You saw that car drift up a little bit higher than he wanted to. Contact made, both of them to the inside and to a stop.
Yeah, and that was phenomenal drag right there by Mark Marthaler as well. He just barely squeaked by the spinning 88 machine. That could have been a lot worse, but really no cars got torn up that bad.
So interesting here, it's Poyer setting up to the outside of Jesse Jensen on the front row. I didn't see Poyer get around Fody at any point in time, but
yeah, that was interesting. So we'll see.
Something a little different. Hey, we're just the commentators. We're not the officials. Either way, they come down the front straightaway. We're green once again. Jensen, who has been dominant in this main, and now it's Fody leaning on the inside of Poyer, trying to get second back as they roll down the back straightaway.
Yeah, it's going to push over the track ever so slightly. Nothing terribly dirty there. I mean, using your inside lineup, and that's going to allow Marthaler to get to the inside of the 57 as well. So huge run for Fody that time down the back straightaway as he's going to take over the second spot completely. Marthaler to the inside of Poyer with just 2 laps to go. Jesse Jensen nice and comfortable out front now. Not a ton of pressure directly from behind as Marthaler and Poyer side by side for that 3rd spot on the podium.
In basketball, we would say ball don't lie on that one. So if Poyer was given the outside of that front row by accident, now he's having to fight for his life to stay on the podium. Is Jesse Jensen going to make another win happen here in the Cruisewick Mobile? Beautiful run for him, and be nice to see him back in victory lane. And one heck of a finish in behind him. It looks like Fody's going to get second. Great job, Jim, for 3rd coming to it. Ooh.
Marthaler looks like in the 44 machine.
All right. Nice rally, Mike. So an entertaining street stock main event once again. There on the card, it's going to be must-see TV.
Exactly, yeah. And not a huge field like we've seen in the last few races with these guys, but still put on a phenomenal show here at the Galloway Shootout as we have just 2 more main events left for you here on CW11. The Legend A main event, it will be the next thing to roll out when we come back. But first, we're going to head on down to the Angel of Winds platform. And here, from your top 3, Jesse Jensen, Mike Marthaler, and Jim Fody.
Yeah, nice work, Jesse.
Thank you.
Jesse, at one time we clocked you. You had a 9-second advantage. It was kind of looking a little bit like the mini stock race. The cautions came out, but you did what you needed to do to get that win.
Yeah, the car was really fast tonight. We went through the whole thing this week, found some stuff wrong with it, fixed it, got it back to where it needed to be, and it just drove really well.
And we're seeing quite a fun race right now between the points race between you and between Hubbard. We saw Hubbard with some issues, but you're doing
doing everything you need to do to be up there at the top.
Yeah, we have to overcome what happened a couple weeks ago, and that was my bad. Just made a mistake and put us kind of behind the 8 ball as far as points go. But I really wanted to make a statement tonight, you know, where I started and passing guys clean, didn't put a single tire mark on anybody, and yeah, just did my best to really make it to the front and do it in a cleaner way.
Jesse, that number 3 car is awful sharp looking. Tell us about your sponsors.
Dunstan and Bradley, can't thank them enough. Dirk and Kristen Kruzwick, the owners, Rob, Jeff, Randall, those guys put a lot of hours on this car and really make it look good and go fast.
Jim, I tell you what, it was a lot of fun to watch that race tonight because you just seemed to have that right line that was blocking anybody from being able to pass. A couple of cautions, but you ended up coming up with the second tonight.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just getting too old for this stuff. I think I took a wrong turn to get up here. Man. It was fun, though. It was a lot of fun, but it's a little warm out there.
Well, it's a little bit warm, but somebody up here just called you an animal, so you must have a good reputation.
Well, they've seen me eat.
Love it. All right, Jim, tell us about your sponsors and people to help you out.
Oh, boy, I want to thank Jay for helping me on the car. He's been awesome to me. I'd like to thank his wife for helping out. I'd like to thank my wife for not letting me come in the garage now until the car's done. And she's been awesome. She's the best wife ever. But that's all I got, man.
Out of breath a little bit. That was one heck of a final lap.
A little bit, yeah, man. My feet are on fire from that race.
So the track was probably a little bit hot out there, maybe a little bit of slipping and sliding, but you sure did a heck of a job getting side by side there at the end with Doug and able to take the 3rd place tonight.
Yeah, my whole goal was not to touch him. We come out here for fun, and it's just a hobby, and we've had a rough 4 weeks, so I'm just trying to not make enemies out there and just race clean.
Well, it sure looked good tonight. Mike, tell us about the sponsors of people to help you out.
Yeah, we got Direct Carpet Cleaning, Fleet Service Auto and Truck Repair, Griard Insurance, Squires Machine, KH Suspension, J2 Racing Parts, and Finish Line Heating and Air Conditioning, and Elevate Media.
Well, as you can see, it is the legends on the raceway here at Evergreen Speedway on Home Track Heroes, and we're ready for a 30-lap main event for them. Caleb Hart and Kyler Hope with you. And Kyler, these guys have had an interesting year. We've had a couple of wet races. We got a dry, hot one now, and a really good field of cars. Let's introduce everybody to who's out there competing.
Exactly, yeah. We already had the B main event for these guys, so 3 of them transferred out of the B to join the tail end of this field. So it's a definitely action-packed, full field of legends. And on the front row, we got the 3-time reigning champion, the 11C of Chad Center, sponsored by Mazda of Everett. And his outside, that's the 08 of Greg Scott, sponsored by Mazda of Everett as well.
Row number 2, 69 Garrett Archer on the inside. Next to him, the 43 of Dylan Wolf.
Then we got John Zaretsky in the 98 Kent Collision Center car inside of row number 3. To his outside, the young Kyle Lang, sponsored by J2 Racing Parts.
Row number 4, Chris Belanca's on the inside, the 42, and it's Braden Wager, the 30B, outside of him, the Dirt Cheap Sewers sponsored car.
Then we have the 40 of Samantha Schwartz, sponsored by Dirt Cheap Sewers as well, and her outside, the 37 of Mason Nelson, sponsored by YN Brokers.
6th row, the 15D of Davis Jacobson, sponsored by Evergreen Concrete Cutting. Next to him, car number 51, Antonio Bianchi.
And the next row, we see the 10 of Chris Thompson, sponsored by LB Motorsports. His outside, that's a 2 of Jeff Mueller.
Row behind them, it is the Absolute Auto Care of Gig Harbor number 76 of Corey Boyle, and the 64 of Deacon Postle, sponsored by Clean Crawls.
Then we go into the B main transfers. We got the 18 of Gene Watson, sponsored by Premier Painting. His outside, the 77B of Cole Slater, sponsored by Lord Co Auto Parts. And rounding out the field, that's the 2X of Mike Roberts.
So a full, big, and talented field ready to go as they are just about ready to go green flag racing in an interesting front row of Center, the defending track champion, 3-time, the only track champion at Evergreen Speedway here for the Legends, and the guy who won the last time out in the 08 of Greg Scott. So entertaining front row and a lot of talent in behind him. It's going to be a fascinating main to see how it breaks out.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you mentioned Garrett Archer in the 69 inside of row number 2. His first time out here at Evergreen Speedway, and that legend we saw end up on the podium as well with a very young kid behind it a few weeks ago, just a 12-year-old. So definitely know that car is fast. And same with the 42 of Chris Belanca, his first time out here at Evergreen Speedway in 2022. So a couple new faces here on a big Galloway Shootout weekend as the green flag is in the air for the Evergreen Legends. They barrel down turn number 1, a little bit loose from 11C at Chad Center, looked like.
Wow, yeah, really sharp turn in to get to the bottom of the racetrack. As they'll go side by side, it's actually Scott with a little bit of an advantage getting into turn number 3, trying to nose ahead and lead this very first lap. And behind him, we got somebody going and hanging out in the green grass.
Yeah, that looks like the 18 of Gene Watson. B-main transfers will ride on board with him. Didn't look like there was any contact and just into the corner. That did not just sound right. Something going wrong on the motor or something going off there. That's just a bizarre incident there with the 18 of Gene Watson. Is this going to bring out the first caution here early in the Legend main event? That's just an odd thing to happen. Go down turn number 3 on the first lap.
Yes, indeed. And out of that caution, we are going to time travel forward a little bit. It's Garrett Archer now up and leading the train in front of the field.
Yeah, fast forward ahead as we just got some time restraints with some of the other main events, so we're going to skip ahead of the few cautions that we've had in the Legends single file restart. Garrett Archer up front, Chris Palanca in second, Kyle Lang in third, with 20 laps to go.
Yep, with Center trying to chase him down, make his way back into that top 3. So your front row has faded a little bit, and it's Archer in the potent 69 car rolling forward and looking good early here. Archer, very talented driver. He has been good in a lot of different disciplines in the Northwest, and now out in front of this Legend field with Belanca really putting it to him coming out of turn number 2.
Yeah, and then Kyle Lang, the highest running regular at Evergreen Speedway, sitting there in third in the 33 machine, and he's coming off a pretty nasty hit, probably one of the hardest we've seen in 2022 on Home Track Heroes, and they have been working hard to get that car rebuilt, and it's showing a lot of speed right here as he sits in third, right behind some of the fastest Legend drivers there are in the state of Chris Belanca and Garrett Archer.
Belanca's got a nice look to the inside of Archer, and Archer's going to give up the ghost going into turn number 3. We got a new leader coming to the completion of this lap, and it's going to be Chris Belanca in the 42.
Yeah, Archer looked like he's maybe going to try to cross up, and there he goes. Actually, this time into turn number 1, seeing what there is down there for that 69 machine. If he can get anything to stick into turns 1 and 2, and while they've been swapping positions, that allowed the 33 of Kyle Lane to get right to their back bumper. So now it's a 3-car battle for that race lead with Chad Center and Braden Weger looks like leading the next group behind them.
Yeah, but the front 3 are on a big old breakaway right now, so Archer with the interesting move of trying to cross him over and coming back after him, but Belanca, good job counter-punching, running away and starting to try to add some distance. Meanwhile, Lang looking for second on Archer coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, that 33 machine is definitely fast. They got everything rebuilt, and it's definitely got everything pointing in the right direction as he's putting a ton of pressure on the back of the 69 of Garrett Archer, and we've seen Garrett Archer run late models, super late models here on this 3/8 mile oval, so he's definitely no stranger to it at all as he's putting some really solid laps down, trying to get back to the back bumper Chris Belanca, but he is a mirror full of Kyle Lang.
It's interesting. The shadows are kind of wreaking havoc right now out on the raceway. You go from into the shadow to into the sunlight to back into the shadow, and if you don't got your eyes right on this, it could be a little bit hard trying to hit your marks and find where you're going. They start to stretch across, and it becomes a little interesting trying to catch white slash marks on the raceway to tell you where to turn in and where you need to be, but Belanca doing a good job of it. Looks like Archer closing back in just a little bit and bringing Lang with him, but it was right on his rear.
Yeah, and especially, you mentioned the sun, it's especially really hard coming up right here into 3 and out of turn 4 because you're staring straight into the setting sun, and looking into that bright orb is not very friendly. We know we're not used to seeing it that much here in 2022, so you kind of want to get used to looking at it, but at the same time, it's not something you want to stare into, especially when you're trying to drive a race car, and it makes it really hard to see, like you mentioned, trying to hit all your marks, know where you're at in the corner, know when to throttle up, and especially with cars as finicky as Legends, it amplifies it that much more.
I'm not a weatherman or anything, but I'm predicting we're going to see lots of it over the rest of the year, so it's a skill set they'd better develop coming in as Belanca is coming in to 10 to go, and things staying pretty static between your top 3 at least at the moment. Just got to wait for something to break loose, somebody's car handling to either come in a little bit more or go away a little bit more. With 10 more times around, Belanca looking for the Evergreen Speedway win here.
Yeah, so far a really good 10-lap green flag run right now. So the cars are not behaving like they have at all throughout the day. Not quite having this long of a run yet so far. So Belanca really learning about that 42 machine right now. Garrett Archer, Kyle Lang, they both are still within reaching distance, so it might just take one mistake or one little mishap from your race leader in the 42 to allow those two to come right to his back bumper.
You speak of the sun as well. That also means that part of the track is under heat at the moment while the other is cooling off, being out of the sunshine. We got a car around right in front of your leaders. Everybody manages to avoid as take a couple of seconds. We'll come back up into the booth and get ready for the last little burst of Legend main.
Yeah, that was 15D Davis Jacobs pickups than we saw around in turns 3 and 4, and thankfully everyone was able to do a good job because, like we mentioned, looking right into the sun coming through 3 and 4, and it's not a good spot to end up parked. So thankfully everyone's able to do a great job to avoid them as we got 9 laps to go here in the Evergreen Legend Shootout.
And this segment brought to you by PRCBD. Swing by PRCBD in Arlington for all your CBD questions or needs. For people, pets, and more, go to prcbd.com and use promo code RACE.
How convenient.
That works out well.
Yeah, so let's get back to the race. How about we?
9 to go.
Chris Belanca, Garrett Archer, Kyle Langer, top 3 with Dylan Wolf, who he was quietly closing in on those top 3. I don't think he would have had enough time to get all the way to their back bumper, but he was definitely closing in, showing a ton of speed in that orange 43 machine. Caution was exactly what he needed. We'll see what he's able to do with it. Garrett Archer in that white number 69, all over the back bumper of Chris Belanca, trying different lines, seeing what he can do to get around him. 8 to go this time by. It's still the 42, Chris Belanca.
Yeah, you had mentioned Wolf. I was just about to say that he was starting to peek into the picture, and a well-timed caution flag for him as he's going to put some pressure on Kyle Lang. Lang now has to worry about what he's going to do to get around Archer and what he's got to do to defend third position. Tough place to be in for the young driver.
Exactly, yeah. And I think Archer is probably in the worst position of it all because he really wants to hunt down and get around Belanca, but he has to be very careful about what line he chooses because Kyle Lang is all over his back bumper. And right there, coming off of turn number 2, you just see how much lower Garrett Archer is trying to get the inside of Belanca and carry that momentum. And he's got the mirror full of Kyle Lang just pushing him all the way through, trying to give him any boost he can, it looks like.
Yeah, that's been pretty consistent, that opening coming off the bottom of 2 for the way that Belanca exits the corner. There it is again, and Archer just keeps trying to dig and get inside, but he can't get through the center of the corner fast enough. I wonder if you could see, and the way that that's opening up, you remember that line that Zaretsky was taking when he was running clean air, cutting that corner really, really high, hard, and sharp? I wonder if that kind of line would get him just enough of a run to get inside Belanca and force Belanca further up the raceway to take that line away. I don't know. It's really going to depend on what Archer thinks here. Doesn't have a whole lot of time to figure it out, though. 4 to go.
Exactly, yeah. Like you mentioned, it's 4 laps to go this time by, and it's a 4-car battle for the top spot as Dylan Wolf has really put his name in here. This is probably one of the best runs we've seen out of 43 machine all year long. So great job from Dylan Wolf as he's hanging out right there. It's just going to take one little mistake from either Archer, Lang, or Belanca to allow him to get by as they continue to run nose to tail. Almost no margin of error for Kyle Lang as he's all over the back bumper, pushing Archer through the corner right there.
Yeah, Lang give him a little bump help trying to get through because, hey, if you can string Belanca out of the outside groove, might be worth a spot for Archer and a spot for Lang at this point in time. Time is just at a precious minimum. Belanca doing everything he needs to do to hold on to this lead. Archer has not figured out the combination to get by him yet. Cut that corner just a little bit harder that time, but it didn't pay off.
Exactly, yeah. It's been fun to watch off that turn 1 camera how hard that 69 dives it into turn 1 and 2, and that seems like it'd be the only spot that he has to try to get around Belanca. White flag is in the air. One more time around. We'll see what Garrett Archer has for him.
You know, does he go full send? Boy, he tried, but Belanca actually came off just a hair lower that time. Good move by your race leader. Was it the winning move to secure this victory? Sure looks like it was.
Exactly, yeah. Coming off the corner, Chris Belanca going to be your race winner with Garrett Archer second and Kyle Lang, your top finishing local driver in third. Dylan Wolf coming home fourth. Awesome run there for the 43 machine.
You know, considering the shenanigans we've seen at the front of the field at points in time this year, nice clean race out front, too. That was well done. And let's go talk to your top 3 here in the Legends.
Chris, that was a phenomenal race. You were the fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, and now you take home the win. How does that feel?
Feels pretty good. It's always hard to win, you know, especially with an invert like that starting 8th against guys like Garrett Archer, Center, you know, Lang. You know, those kids are fast.
How does it feel to be here at Evergreen Speedway? Haven't seen you the rest of this year.
I love this track. I'm going to try to make it out here more often, but South Sound's my home track.
And do you have anyone you'd like to thank for tonight?
Yeah, I want to dedicate this win to my grandma. She passed away last week. And, of course, I want to thank my sponsors, Stadium Thriftway, CarStar Premier Collision, Liberty Plumbing, and Belanca Homes.
Welcome up here, Garrett. You ran a really good race, led those first few laps, and then Belanca got around you. What was that like?
Yeah, you know, Chris is just really good. You got to be on your A game to beat him. And we just got a little bit free. We were kind of fighting that all day. But, you know, Ricky Arnold let me drive his car, so I really appreciate that. And, you know, every adjustment we made helped a lot today. So we'll be back and even stronger next time.
All right, and driving with that 33 in your rearview mirror, what was that like?
Yeah, we were all right there. The spotter, I think the farthest I ever had was about a car length out the back. So, yep, it's just good hard racing. These legend cars are fun cars. So, yep, good time. I got to go spot for the number 12 now in the late model, so be cheering on Trenton tonight, where we might see you later.
Great to have you back out here, Kyle. What was that race like?
It was a great race, great battle. I had a lot of fun, and it's great to be back out here after what happened last week.
Running right behind the 69 of Garrett Archer, what was that like? You were chasing him for a lot of those closing laps.
A few laps I got close, and then a few laps I got loose coming out of the corner, so I couldn't quite get him.
Anyone you'd like to thank for tonight?
J2 Racing, Premier Painting, my mom and dad, and Michael Fritz.
It is time. We have worked our way to the debut for 2022 of the Pro Late models on the 5/8 mile. It is time for the Mark Galloway Shootout here on Home Track Heroes and the Speedway Chevrolet Pro Lates coming for 100 laps on the big track. Pretty cool, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, this is an awesome sight right here. This is normally the runoff. You go to pit road. Nope, we're racing on it this time. The 5/8 mile monster oval, and it was a pretty special day. Started out with a pretty significant pole award. If you want to mention a little bit more about that, because it's probably one of the highest paying pole awards there was in across the country.
Indeed. So 10-car invert, that means your quick qualifier Garrett Evans starting 10th, and he won an additional $3,500 in money just to take the pole. Courtesy really Trent Moriarty, who was raising it in honor of Robert Osaki. Overall, Trenton raised $10,500 that went into the purse and the pole award. So $3,500 for Garrett for setting quick time, and then the top 7 spots each paid out an additional $1,000 on top of their already pretty big Galloway pay. So excellent job, Trenton. Thanks for raising some of these money for the racers in memory of Robert. And everybody's going to be gunning for some big bucks coming up here in the Galloway Shootout time.
Exactly, yep. I think that was the one to go. Lights out on the Speedway Chevrolet pace cars. We'll get to know the starting lineup here. The 78 Haley Constant, sponsored by Joe's Racing Products, to her outside. The 19 of Thomas Stanford, sponsored by D&A Davidson Wealth Management.
The Busch Light 70 is Dawson Cox. Greg Bennett's Bennett Design Construction 98, road number 2.
Road number 3 got the 9K of Caden Holmes, sponsored by Johansson Mechanical. His outside the 12, Trent Moriarty, sponsored by Brock Reynolds.
Chet's Truck Repair sponsors the 25 of Randy Marshall. And road number 4, Donnie Wannett's 89, sponsored by Pathfinder Chassis, starts 8th.
Then we got the top 2 qualifiers, the 18 of Naima Lang, sponsored by J&R Truck Reynolds, and Fast Time 64, Garrett Evans, Hall of Famer, sponsored by Leonard Evans Used Car Superstore.
In behind him, Daniel Morse, PRCBD 16, Chad Fitzpatrick's Northland Contractors 12C, Wyatt Gardner's Gardner Roofing 3, Nick Gunderson's New Property Solutions 33G, Nick Beecher's Harry's Towing 45, the D2 Foundation's 14 of Colton Price, Mike Jensen's Layuna 521, and Angel Cervantes, the Dirt Cheap Sewer 82, making up your field.
Yep, great field of pro late models. A couple out-of-towners, like you mentioned, Randy Marshall Jr., Garrett Evans, Donnie Wannet. It's a couple names we haven't seen in a while here at Evergreen Speedway as they barrel down. 1 lap complete, and it's the young Haley Constance showing the way with a lot of hungry drivers right behind him. A lot of young talent as well, with between Thomas Stanford, Dawson Cox, and Caden Holm.
Hey, go figure. Haley Constance and Thomas Stanford right next to each other once again, the way that it's been all year. And Haley on the 5/8, she spent a little bit of time there last year, ran the showdown on the 5/8 if I remember correctly, but still very young and not a lot of experience out there. But look at her lead the way early here on the Galloway.
Yeah, and talking to her pre-race, she was pretty nervous to be leading the field of pro late models to the green flag, but hey, she's doing a great job at it right here and showing the way. 2 laps down, leading over Thomas Stanford, Dawson Cox, Caden Holm, Trent Moriarty make up your top 5, Randy Marshall Jr., then Donnie Wanna your top 7. That's kind of your first main group right there. As you good look there of the 78 of Haley Constance barreling down into turn number 1 on this monster 5/8 mile. Still 97 laps to go, so a long race ahead of these drivers, and a lot of these drivers, we mentioned, big rookie field this year in the pro late model, so a lot of these drivers not ever seeing the 5/8 track for the first time. Thomas Stanford leading the way out of all those rookies.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of faith in your race car and a lot of faith in yourself that it's going to go into the corner and it's going to stick, and that you're going to pick up the throttle right and be pedaling at the right time, and you can can see right now, confidence very, very high in Constance, as she is not only leading, but she is stretching early here, and a long green flag run for her would do a ton of good for that program overall, as again, just build that confidence up.
Exactly, yeah, it's a huge thing for these drivers, just building up that confidence. They love this speed shot. You see them barrel down this long monster front straightaway as they come on down all the way back to about 15th, 16th position right there. As we're actually going to switch on board and see what it's like behind the wheel. One of these things, this is Trent Moriarty as he sits 5th with Caden Holm right there in the 9K right in front of him. As this is just such a cool onboard to really see how much these drivers really have to work around these 5/8 mile.
We had seen Moriarty here on Home Track Heroes win in the Cruiserweight 3 car in the Street Stock division just a few weeks ago. As you can see him already twisting on one of the knobs within the race car and making a little adjustment as he's got a little bit of a peek inside of Holm. Sense of speed really cool here on the 5/8s. They're absolutely flying around this race trailer. I mean, look at the miles per hour that he's carrying into turn 3, and car's sticking quite nicely. I think Moriarty's got a good piece for this main event.
Exactly, yeah. He's pretty confident coming off of a few big races. He's down at Southtown Speedway not so long ago. See Cade Holm look to the inside of Dawson Cox right in front of him. That's going to wash up the track. And what I love about Evergreen Speedway's big track is how wide these corners are and how much there is room to play. You see Cade Holm get really loose that time off of turn number 2. That's going to allow the 12 of Trent Moriarty to look to his inside. And like you mentioned, that little bit of a change that Trent was making on that car early in this race. I believe that's his brake bias right there. So just try and get the car comfortable, get it set up right. A long race, a lot of stuff to change. They have a competition caution with 75 laps in, 25 to go. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that to make some big adjustments. But until then, they only got small stuff they can change, like a brake bias or some other little things like that inside the cockpit.
However, make the right adjustment, and that can make a big difference. You see Moriarty is now driven underneath Holm. He's got a 4th place car at the moment. He's bringing Randy Marshall in and with him. So that is Marshall's 25 down to the inside, trailing Moriarty around, guys who have been side by side, nose to tail in the super late model game quite a bit here in the last couple of years, as both getting some 5/8 action and getting ready for the showdown just a month away.
Exactly, yeah, not too long before we see the super late models return here to Home Track Heroes here on CW11. Both pro late models and super late models will be on the 5/8. If you want to come out see them in person, just look up Evergreen Speedway Summer Showdown. It's kind of a big deal. You're going to want to be here for it as we continue to watch Donnie Wannett now look to the inside of Caden Holm. As Caden Holm in that 9K, he's dropped 4 spots in the last few laps. So when we were right on board Trent Moriarty, we saw how loose that 9K was, especially off turn number 2. So just fighting that balance of that 9 car a little bit. Maybe the cooler temperatures messing with the car, maybe more or less grip than they thought. As we'll flash up now, 12 of Trent Moriarty looking for 3rd.
Hey, Moriarty down to the inside of Dawson Cox, makes the move, shows him the door, and now Dawson strung up around the outside, going to have to take the long way around the raceway to preserve that position. But it is Moriarty picking up the spot going into turn number 3. So Trenton again on the climb early on in this race, and Dawson gives him a little bit of nose for his trouble coming off of 4.
Exactly, yeah. A long race ahead of them, though. Still 88 laps to go. As here comes Randy Marshall Jr. to the inside of Dawson Cox as well, as he almost that 4th spot. So a lot of shuffling here in the top 5 early, minus your top 2. Haley Constance, Thomas Stanford kind of checking out from all these drivers, but you really will got to preserve these tires because, yes, there is a competition caution, but that's mainly just for fuel and some small adjustments. You don't get new tires at that break, so you really have to conserve these tires for the entire 100-lap feature, knowing that you're going to have a 25-lap shootout towards the end of the race. So it's definitely something the drivers are going to have to keep in mind as we flash back up with the young Haley Constance. Coming up on Angel Cervantes, looking to put the first car a lap down, 13 laps into this race. So you see how big of a lead she has over Thomas Stanford. That 78 car must be feeling pretty comfortable.
Haley with Dad telling her, all right, car high, clear high at this point in time, makes the way on through, and Stanford closed a little bit in the exchange. Now Haley coming up on even more slower traffic. Get a look a little bit further back in the field as I believe that is Naaman Lang working to the inside on Caden Holm. And one of the things in the Holm car, we were wondering if he was a little bit loose early. They don't quite have the same manpower in the home pit area this weekend that they usually do, as brother Tanner off racing another form of car somewhere else, and that split the crew and the family up a little bit. So the support staff on the 9 car maybe not the same, and I don't know if you could say shorthanded, maybe didn't have all the same thought time to put into everything, but might have hurt Holm in this one as he's dropped back a little ways.
Yeah, some of these families, even the Dawson Cox family, they have split cars at different schedules. So some of Dawson's normal crew is also off somewhere else at another track racing a different series as well. So definitely one of those weekends where it's hard not having all that same support there, or the same family members there can just make things feel a bit different, especially on the big track.
Yeah, you think about everything that it takes to run one of these late models, right? You've got your spotter, you got your tire guy, you got your car chief, crew chief, etc., and the driver on top of that, not to mention just the other hands that help on the pit area. And you take a guy out of his normal role, have to fit somebody else in somewhere else, and makes things a little bit different. And with late models, they're such creatures of habit and consistency. You know, they practice a whole ton during the course of the week. They want to get into habits and such like that any little deviation in the plan can certainly throw a wrench into things.
Exactly. Yeah, as we flash back up to your top two, Haley Constance leading over Thomas Stanford. Comfortable, let's say, 8-car gap as we now see Naaman Lang working his way up to the inside of Dawson Cox. So both Dawson Cox and Caden Holm falling back pretty early on in this race. As you see Dawson get really loose that time off of turn number 4. That was a nice save as he had Naaman Lang to his inside, so he really had nowhere to spin the car out there if he got any looser. That was a dangerous moment there for a second.
Those two have raced hard together this year, and more often than not, Namath's come out on top of it as he's bringing Holm with him. And looks like Holm kind of went to school and has figured out his race car a little bit, as he's doing a good job sticking with Namath and looking to advance back up the field if Namath can get back inside Dawson and clear him. And bringing Garrett Evans in with him. First time we've talked about Garrett during the course of racing action here. He is doing the veteran thing, just kind of patiently hanging out, at least for the time being.
Exactly, yeah. Like we mentioned, got to conserve those tires as we see the 18 continue to battle the inside of Dawson Cox. It's going to get sideways right in front of Garrett Evans. That's Caden Holm going around.
Oh, no.
And he's able to keep it off the outside wall at least. But we were just talking about maybe he was able to figure out that car, settle it down a little bit. But announcer's curse as he got really loose that time off of turn number 2, which we saw a few times with the Trent Moriarty on board. But that time just couldn't keep the car underneath him. 19 laps in, going to bring out the first caution flag of the race.
All right, let's look at it here from our cam, and coming out of the second corner, you can see the back end already kind of starting to step out on him. Fishtails, and does a good job keeping it out of the fence, and everybody did a good job avoiding him down the back chute.
Yeah, exactly. Garrett Evans definitely was probably double thinking that a little bit as he sees the 9-car go sideways right in front of him and turn back to the right. Just lock it down. Don't come into me, please. As he's able to sneak behind the 64 machine. Here's the turn 3 shot. You just see the 9 just get loose, overcorrect a little bit. Thankfully, kept it out of that outside wall, as that could have been a lot worse than it really was.
I think I read where Garrett's 66 years old now at this point in time, and look at the reaction time he still has available to him. I mean, the dude's a legend for a reason. Over 400-something feature wins, West Coast Hall of Fame for NASCAR at this point in time. And yeah, watch how quickly this happens. You'll see that little blue streak just kind of by on the outside. Bingo, red light.
He just looks back in his rearview mirror, sees the 9 cars around. Yeah, it's a free spot. Why not?
Thank you.
We'll line them back up as we have 81 laps still remaining here in the Galloway Shootout. Haley Constance leading over Thomas Stanford. Then we got a couple blue, black, and yellow cars. That's the 12 of Trent Moriarty and the 25 of Randy Marshall Jr. making up row number 2. The 89 Donnie Wan and the 18 of Naaman Lang right there in row number 3.
And we are back to green flag action. Down into turn number 1. It is Stanford. And Stanford got the jump on Haley. Yeah, just a little bit on her getting into 1, but Haley using the bottom 2 to her advantage, I should say, bringing Moriarty with. They're side by side down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Thomas Stanford got a huge run, maybe a little bit of contact right there between your top 2 going down the back straightaways. That could have been ugly as they almost got together coming off of turn number 2, but are able to keep it going as Thomas Stanford looks like he's going to take over the race lead, utilizing that outside line, and he will lead lap number 20.
All right, well, we've seen it a couple of times where Stanford has got Constance, but Constance has come back to try to get him. We'll watch them down the back straightaway. It's Marshall, and that outside line really doing well on that race start. Randy Marshall looks to be taking 3rd away from Moriarty. He's got it as he closes the door going to the bottom of 3.
Exactly, yeah. So a lot of mix-up here in our top 5 off this restart. Naaman Lang sitting there in 5th, and then Donnie Wan and Daniel Moore battling for that 6th spot side-by-side off at turn number 4 as they barrel down into turn number 1. Love that speed shot so much.
Looks good. Now they're starting to single file out a little bit as Wannick in a battle with Moore for position. Bring Evans and Chad Fitzpatrick now getting up into the top 10 and getting a little bit racy here in the Speedway Chevrolet Pro Late Models. This segment is brought to you by Speedway Chevrolet. In fact, visit Speedway Chevrolet and RV Center in Monroe. For customized trucks, lifted trucks, work trucks, and Speedway Chevrolet can locate the truck that fits you best. Speedway Chevrolet and RV Center also wants to take your trade and will buy or consign your vehicle or RV and take the hassle out of selling it on your own.
Exactly, yeah, go check out Speedway Chevrolet. They've been a huge sport of the Pro Late Model division for many, many years here at Evergreen Speedway. Is 75 or 78 laps to go, so closing up in on a quarter of the way through. Thomas Stanford, your new race leader. Only had 2 leaders out front. They're both a couple of the quote-unquote rookies in the class. Haley Constance, it's her second year in Pro Late Models. It's Thomas Stanford's first full-time year, and it's also his first time on the big track, and he's out front leading. So great job there for Thomas Stanford. Learned what he had to in that first 20-lap run. Was able to get around Haley Constance on the restart, and he's showing the way now on his first time on the 5/8 track.
It's interesting to see that he's opened up about a very similar gap on Haley to what Haley had opened up on him during that first little run of time. Meanwhile, Haley's going to start getting some pressure from Randy. And Marshall Jr., that 25 car, is closing up on her Masa Rapido. At least in 1 and 2, she did a better job getting off of turn number 2, as we're going to see Wannett and Evans now. The 89 and the 64 getting a little bit tighter.
Exactly, yeah. Like you mentioned, Garrett Evans, fast time award winner, started 10th with the invert, and he's having to make his way up through the pack. I mean, he knows he has a long race ahead of him, but you still don't want to sit back too long and let everyone else really check out from you and come down to the end of it. Still have a lot of cars past. He looks to the inside of Donnie Wannett momentarily. Is the best battle right now is for 4th with the 18 of Naima Lang and the 12 of Trent Moriarty right here.
Moriarty hugging the bottom of the racetrack, and Naima starting to build some momentum, really closing good up on him off of turn number 4. So it was Moriarty who early got the top 3, and now it's Lang who's starting to pick off some spots. Trenton exits turn 2 a little bit high down the back straightaway, going to hold it for now, but Naima, certainly stalking him.
Yeah, exactly. Naima Lang, that 18, might have more laps than almost anyone else here. Maybe Garrett Evans on the 5/8 mile oval here at Evergreen Speedway. So definitely a ton of experience behind the wheel at 18 machine. As your top 3 starting to bunch up a little bit more. Haley Constance closing in that gap on the 19 of Thomas Stanford, and then Randy Marshall Jr. right on her back bumper as well. So this battle for the race lead really starting to heat up. Still 73 laps to go though.
You look him down the back straightaway, a couple of car lengths separate them, but you see getting into the corner, it looks like Constance able to drive a little bit harder, keep a little more speed going into turn number 3. If she can master the corner exit, that really gives her a chance to close up that gap. And with the way that Stanford's getting through the corner, there is a lane inside of him to be taken if she can get the car there.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about playing your corners right, being able to carry the momentum the right way, and just be able to get to the inside and stick it in there long enough without it causing any sort of issues. And she's definitely seems like she has the faster car. Like you mentioned, we've seen this in many races past so far when these two battle it out. Thomas able to get ahead of her on a restart, but then Haley has that longer run car that can just run him down and eventually get back by the 19 as she looks like she's got the faster car right now and is trying to set him up just the right way.
Well, she's not only catching him using that line, but that line's going to be one that she can use to pass him as well. So when your fastest line is a good passing line at the same time, you're in really good shape. As you see, there's a door that is wide open off at the bottom of turn number 4, and there's also one kind of getting in through this middle of 1 and 2 where she's got a car width there down to the low side that she can get by. Stanford might have to make an adjustment to what he's running, and that could open up a new opportunity for Constance if she can figure it out.
Exactly, yeah, and she does seem to have the faster car between the two as she's able to open up the gap between her and third place Randy Marshall Jr. ever so slightly, as these three have really checked out. As that time she must have had something go wrong in the middle of 3 and 4 because she lost a ton of ground to Stanford and allowed Randy Marshall Jr. to catch back up to her back bumper. So kind of just jinxed her right there how much we're talking about how great her line was, because she got loose or something happened in 3 and 4 and she lost all that ground we just talked about.
The commentator's curse has been very real during the course of this show. We apologize to all the drivers that we said anything good about. We promise it wasn't intentional.
Exactly, as we see Thomas Stanford starting to close in on some lap traffic here, not too far in front of him. That's the 7D of Dawson Cox, so something going really wrong on the Cox machine, because he was started out up towards the top 5 and has really fallen back quickly on this restart, just 13 laps into this restart.
Yeah, Cox fighting at something serious, but as a young racer, you go through races like that. Okay, my stuff's not exactly perfect. How do I get her home? How do I get the best finish that you can? As we are slowing on the raceway. Yellow flag's out.
Yellow flag is out once again, and it looks like there's actually a car around on the back straightaway. It's the 9K of Caden Holm again, coming to stop in a similar spot he was at before. As we'll take a look at a couple of replays of what happened to the 9K machine. Just Look for the white dot coming into your picture and just gets really loose early in the corner and spins her around, locks her down early this time. You see the 45 Nick Beecher getting by, and here comes the 33 of Nick Gunderson as well as we go on board with Nick Gunderson. Take a look at what he saw coming off the corner. Don't go anywhere. We will be back with more racing right here on the Galloway 100 Shootout from Evergreen Speedway.
Welcome back to Home Track Heroes here on the CW11. My name is Caleb Hart, Kyler Hope, and we are watching the Mark Galloway Shootout for the Pro Late Models. We are a good chunk of the ways into the race, but still got a lot to go. 68 laps left, and under caution flag, getting ready to come back to green flag action with Thomas Stanford, your leader, and Haley Constance starting right outside of him.
Yeah, unfortunate for Caden Holm, last year's Rookie of the Year. He's been the cause of both cautions so far, but hey, his car's still rolling in one piece. He'll take the end of the field as green flag is back out in the air. Thomas Stanford taking that inside line, and we'll see if Haley's able to do what Thomas did to her last time, and she can kind of carry that outside momentum and maybe carry the run down the back straightaway, but not quite still to his door, as Thomas got a huge run off the bottom of the track, and he's going to hang on to that race lead as they go down into turns 3 and 4 with Randy Marshall Jr. and Trent Moriarty battling side by side once again.
And actually, it looks like Moriarty's going to retake position number 3 out in front of the field. Now, will he duck down and close the door? He will, going into turn number 1. So, Moriarty back into being a podium car. Stanford, Constance, Moriarty 1 through 3. Marshall, Daniel Moore having a really good run back in 5th.
Yeah, Daniel Moore having an awesome run here in the PRCPD machine. That number 16 car, he's able to hang off Nama Langford now, as he's actually going to drift quite a ways up through 3 and 4. So maybe drove a little bit harder than he wanted to, allowed the 18 to get to his inside. That's the first side-by-side battle you see on the track right now, as the rest of the field coming into shot right now. Still, yep, that 18 looking to the inside of the 16, just not quite enough, but they got the mirror full of the West Coast Hall of Famer of Garrett Evans.
I was taking a quick count of it. Moore started 11th, so an early run for hard charger for him, picking up about 6 positions, although again, the 18 and the 64 being right behind you could be fairly intimidating. Nema and Garrett both trying to make their way up and through the field here. Is 35 in, you can't imagine that these guys are going to hold back for a bunch time more. I mean, yeah, you can conserve tire, but at some point in time, you got to pass. I mean, they're not, some of the other cars in front of you will fall off, they will get worse, but you still got to catch them and get by them. And even if your race car is all that much better, it's racing. It's not easy.
Exactly, yeah, and we do have that competition caution at lap 75, so they know that they will be able to come in and make those adjustments, but you still have, you can't rely on that many more cautions to come out of this race, especially with a little bit smaller of a field right here. You don't want to rely on other drivers to create your luck, so you got to start pushing at one point. And Randy Marshall Jr., I think, has been the biggest mover, one of the biggest movers inside the top 10 so far. He started 7th, and he's trying to work his way into 3rd as he's put a ton of pressure on Trent Moriarty and a lot of the guys inside the top 3 all race long.
Yeah, Moriarty's gotten from 6th to 3rd at the moment, so Marshall just equaling him step by step. Those two have been kind of hooked up and hauling in and through the field. They've got some space between 5th place Daniel Moore, although losing touch with your lead 2 and Constance and Stanford here at the moment. Got a good look at multiple battles going on with Marshall right in on Moriarty, and again, Nema and Garrett kind of looking over Moore, who is desperately trying to get away from them and into the battle up in front of him. He would rather be contending with the guys in front as opposed to dealing with those legends in behind him.
Exactly, yeah, and that one shot down the front straightaway, you see all the way back to 9th place Chad Fitzpatrick in the yellow and orange car. That kind of builds up your entire top 9, as they are all pretty nose to tail, and then it's a little bit of a gap there from 10th on back, as there they are, the all 9 in your shot as they go down the front straightaway. Thomas Stanford having a really nice lead, though, over Haley Constance, the rookie on the 5/8. He's the only rookie in the top, I want to say, 12 or 13 that has never seen the 5/8 track. Actually, in the top 10, Nick Gunderson, the next highest running rookie in the 33, G running 11th, so good run for him so far as well. As this has got to be such a scary track for rookies. I can't even imagine it.
Wow, I want to get more to that point, but it looks like that Moriarty's developed a little center corner push going on right here, and that's going to open the door for Marshall. I think Marshall's going to get 3rd, at least coming through this set of corners. So Marshall to the inside, Moriarty to the outside. You wonder about the state of the right side tires in the 12 car at the moment, because that center corner push is bingo right on with a tire that might be wearing out either on the right front or maybe even the right rear with the way that the back end of that car is looking at the moment.
Yeah, an alternate view of that could be that Trent is choosing to run that line and run in, let the car drift up the track a little bit more and diamond it off, so he's maybe not necessarily turning as hard and or getting the throttle as early and down low, letting the rear end stay underneath him a little bit more, because a lot of times we see drivers like with Cade Holmes spinning out, when you run that low line, you just lose grip and your rear end starts to step out a little bit. So maybe it's an adjustment for him to try to keep the car underneath him and not be sliding the back tires around as much. Or it could be a push, like you mentioned.
Yeah, either or. They're both viable options here at this point, although when you've had Marshall to the inside of you and, you know, side by side with him for a little bit, I lean more towards he can't keep the car down as opposed to he's choosing not to keep the car down. And especially at this point in time in the race, you know, it's going to be weird to push and then go into conserve mode in the middle portion of it. So my guess is that he's got a push that he's dealing with, and that he's trying his best to hold it. But there's the big move from Marshall right there.
Yeah, and he went really high up, but Trent Moriarty able to carry that outside momentum and be able to keep the 25 at bay for now. So it really just goes to show the different lines you can take through this track and all the different results you can get with your car maybe not even handling the best, like Trent Moriarty right now on that 12 machine.
Yeah.
But Brandon Marshall Jr. doing everything he can to try to stay to the inside of him, but just can't complete the pass. But here comes someone who can complete the pass. That is Garrett Evans working his way around Nema Lang. So two of the legends here of Evergreen Speedway and in the Northwest battling hard just outside the top 5, and Garrett Evans moving into 6th position.
Yeah, Garrett's managed this race really well as he's put some fast cars in his rearview mirror at this point in time, and he's not so far back that he's out of it, nor has he really abused his stuff all that much up at this point. So he's running 6th, and you know, 5th is not too far out for him to catch within this next 10-15 laps or so, and maybe pick up another spot or two before we get to break time. Out in front, Constant's doing a good job of kind of sticking with Stanford, however, hasn't been able to get right back up on him and get there. We touched on Gunderson a little bit, and you had mentioned, you know, some of the rookies in the field getting to see the 5/8 for the first time. But, you know, for some of those rookies, Stanford being one of them, Nick Beecher being one of them, they at least have experience in going circles, what kind of makes Gunderson a little more impressive that he's maintained and you know, knocking on the door of a top 10 here is it's a figure 8 guy on the 5/8 for the first time. That's different, and I know how much work's been going into that car to get him to where they are and getting it comfortable. So to where he is, you know, if the whole team from Jeff and the gang all the way to Greg, who's doing the spotting today, good job of coaching him up and getting him there, and good job by Nick of keeping that car on the door of the top 10, at least at the moment. First time in the 5/8 in this big circle.
Exactly how you mentioned. I mean, we go to the likes of Thomas Stanford, Nick Beecher, some of the other rookies, Colton Price. Obviously, a lot of experience on the oval tracks. I mean, all of them have won championships in the oval before. And then you go to Nick Gunderson, who's won championships in the figure 8, but not a whole lot of oval experience. Now we put him on one of the biggest ovals in the state, and let alone the West Coast when it comes to short track racing. And he's doing a phenomenal job keeping it just outside the top 10. And his first race out here and his first year in pro late models, which is just a huge accomplishment. We cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, you're turning left and you're turning right, and it's on about a 1/6 of a mile course, you know, as opposed to big, sweepy left-hand turns on a 5/8 mile. The skill sets couldn't be any more different as far as it goes. And, hey, Gunderson doing a good job. Other than this little bit right here, we haven't talked about him being sideways, fighting the race car, nothing. He's just solid, steady, learning and gaining.
Exactly, yeah. And here we see Haley Constance starting to close in on Thomas Stanford. And Haley, I mean, she's obviously spent a ton of time going in circles at different various tracks, and she knows what her car is doing, and she really is one of those drivers who can just cue in on all those little stuff as we got a caution out on track, car around the back straightaway. That looks like the 82 Angel Cervantes.
Cervantes, very, very new. You talk about the rookies, as he has only had a legend car for like a year, then picked up a late model here a few weeks ago, and he's making his debut on the 5/8. Let's get a look and see what Angel did. Ooh,
got really loose and locked her up. Did a good job of keeping her out of the wall and out of the rest of the racetrack as well. So good job there by the 82 of Cervantes.
So another look, this one coming out of the cockpit of the Gunderson car, in fact, of Cervantes going down and doing a little agricultural racing.
Yep, so he's able to keep the car in one piece, which is really good because a lot of times when you wreck on the 5/8, it's that car is not coming back. So far we've seen a couple spin outs coming off of turn number 2. We saw that last year with young Hayden Plybon in the Galloway Shootout when he was running really high up as well. So it's definitely a tricky corner coming off turn number 2 as the drivers come off turn number 4, green flag back out in the air. Let's see if Haley Constance learned anything from that last restart and stick to the door of the 19 machine.
Nice battle down the back straightaway. Haley doing a good job of trying to keep up to a fender, but it looks like Stanford's going to get just enough ahead. Meanwhile, for third, Marshall kind of attacking in the outside groove. Kind of a flip-flop there with him and Moriarty, as Moriarty was going a little bit further up the racetrack. Now it's Marshall's turn. And, hey, look out. Garrett Evans has worked his way into 5th at halfway.
Exactly. I restarted 6th on that restart. Was able to get around the outside of Daniel Moore, take over the 5th spot. And now, inside the top 5. And Haley Constance got really loose that time off turn number 2. Randy Marshall Jr. looking at her inside, as that could cause a pretty fatal incident right there for Haley Constance, as she got really loose off turn number 2, and it's going to allow this train of really fast cars to look to her inside now. So
big winners on the restart got to be Garrett and Marshall at this point in time, as they've both picked up a spot or 2 at this point in time. So Marshall working his way up to 2nd. Let's see if, with a new runner-up contender, he can do anything to run down Thomas Stanford, who I don't feel like we're talking about him quite nearly enough. He's looking really good out in front.
Exactly, yeah, really strong in that 19 machine. But right here, the first side-by-side battle, that's Chad Fitzpatrick working his way up. He's battling side-by-side with Daniel Moore, so something going wrong with the 16 machine on that last restart, because he was really strong, but lost a spot to Garrett Evans, and now Chad Fitzpatrick trying to go the long way around him and take over that spot right outside the top 5.
Fitzpatrick was super strong on our opening week, and the subsequent little race that came after, and then kind of hit a little bit of a lull. Now trying to pick it back up in the 12 car, has set a new track record out there the very first week of it. Now trying to find what it is that made that car hum so quickly. He's driven his way up into, it looks like, 6th place at the moment. Right in front of him, it's Garrett starting to put pressure on Moriarty, and that's for 4th.
Yeah, and like you mentioned about Chad Fitzpatrick, he was actually on the show last week and did the entire show in your place, and it was phenomenal having him out here and again that nice driver insight. And we talked about what's going to take for him to perform on these 5/8s, because last year he was battling some health issues and then some car issues in the 2 5/8 races. Didn't get the results that he wanted, but so far it looks like they're able to have everything working the right way, as Garrett Evans looks to the inside momentarily on the 12 machine, trying to work his way into that 4th spot around Trent Moriarty, as Garrett Evans seems to have, I think, probably the best handling car out there. It looks like he just looks like so calm, not having to work the wheel a ton, and everything just looks so smooth for that 64.
That is vintage Garrett Evans. Realistically, it's just a calm, controlled race where he's going to pick off a car. He's never going to put himself in a terribly bad situation. You don't see him overly risky. Heck, he wasn't overly risky in the car 20 years ago, much less now that he's into his mid-60s. That's Garrett Evans. Hey, there's a spot. I got the race car. I got the talent. And coming off the 4th corner, it looks like he's going to be side-by-side with Moriarty, battling for 4th going into 1. Trenton still got a shot to hold him off, but man, I will bet you that inside the cockpit of the 12, he is just slamming a steering wheel right now saying, man, this thing's just pushing too much for me to really hold her down.
Exactly, yeah. We'll flash up to your top 2 now, as Randy Marshall Jr. has reeled in Thomas Stanford for that lead spot. So back behind, you can see Garrett Evans still to the inside of Trenton Moriarty, but this battle for the race lead is where it's getting really tight. Randy Marshall Jr. in the 25 has ran down Thomas Stanford and is looking to the inside, but just could not quite get the drive off underneath the 19.
You saw a little bit of sparks come up as Marshall down low enough to scrape the bottom of the 25 car on the racetrack. Acts like a little bit of an e-brake there for half a second, as he is right up on the back of Stanford trying to make something happen. Stanford now feeling the pressure from Randy Marshall Jr. as we're getting close to about 40 to go, and this is go time. The veteran drivers know you gotta go. You want to be in that top spot. You don't want to be chasing it coming down into the break, as we're only a little ways away from the break at this point in time.
Exactly, yeah, about 15 laps until that 3/4 of the way break. And if you're good at doing math, Garrett Evans, he's up to 4th now, 40 laps to go, started 10th with a 100-lap race. So he's on pace to get up to the race leader if he's able to keep this momentum going. So we talked about how he's very smart, he knows what he needs to do to get these races won. I mean, he has hundreds and hundreds of career wins, so it's no stranger to see him in victory lane, and he's doing everything he needs to right now in the 64 machine.
About a car every 10 laps, and he is right on pace, and in fact, he's rolling in on 3rd, a little bit quicker than that. Meanwhile, Fitzpatrick trying to scoot a spot. Not only a quality race car driver, but looking to take my job as a broadcaster now, too. Thanks, Chad. As there, he'll make the move. The battle of the 12 cars coming out the 2nd corner.
So is there going to be a time we'll see you going behind the wheel of the number 12 late model?
Yeah, I'm retired. I'm retired. I don't want to make these guys look bad.
So Caleb Hart is announcing his retirement from racing right here on CW11. You heard it here. As Chad Fitzpatrick still looking to the inside of the other 12 machine on track of Trent Moriarty. Just couldn't quite get the drive off last time through 1 and 2, and overall lost his momentum, and he's going to fall back in the line. Still 39 laps to go. He's going to have some more chances to get back to that 12 machine, as Randy Marshall Jr. still on the back bumper of Thomas Stanford, but just can't quite get to that run all the way to the inside and hold it there.
Yeah, you see Stanford starting, and he was before. He's exiting those corners just a little bit high. There's enough of a door on corner exit for a driver to get through there, and that's where Marshall's trying to stick the nose in. Still hasn't had enough momentum to get underneath and really, take the lane away from Thomas. That's allowing Thomas to get down at the entry of the corners and hold that lead, at least for the time being. Now, if he drifts up too wide or Marshall can figure out how to beat him off the inside of one of the turns, it's going to completely change the equation. 37 to go, and Stanford running the race of his life, but Marshall right there.
Exactly, and you mentioned all it takes is just one small mistake from Thomas Stanford to drift up, drive the corner a little bit too far, drift up the track, and allow Marshall to get to his inside off corner exit. And you see Thomas, he's really run that outside line now, as we also got a battle for third really brewing up between Garrett Evans and Haley Constance as they go down the front straightaway.
Well, we'll be back after this with more racing. This segment brought to you by Busch Beer, the official beer of NASCAR and Evergreen Speedway. Busch Beer, the sound of refreshment, crisp and cold as a mountain stream. Keep your fridge happy by stocking it with Busch and Busch Light. Busch.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on CW11.
You are in the midst of the Mark Galloway Shootout here on Home Track Heroes for the Pro Late Models, as watching battling a little bit further back in the field. As you look at Trenton Moriarty in the 12, trying to hold off the 16 of Daniel Moore. And we got a cautioning cars around right as we come out of the break. It's the 3 of Wyatt Gardner. It looks like the 7D of Dawson Cox right in front of what is the lead pack coming out of the caution flag. Let's take a look and see what happened from Cox's in-car camera.
Yeah, so right on board right here with Dawson Cox, goes into the corner, and looks like I maybe bumped once and then bumped again a little bit harder, and spun around, and you see Nick Gunderson right there doing a great job getting by, and just probably not a very happy driver with Dawson Cox underneath the wheel. You see him fire back up. We're right on board with Nick Gunderson right here in the 33.
See how dark it's gotten in the cockpit since the start of this race here, is that's one of the fun things to deal with. As far as the drivers go, you look into the corner and, oh yeah, they're going around, and Gunderson's going to have to, evasive maneuvers. Nice job getting up and around by Nick.
Yeah, some pretty good job. I'm sure some figure 8 reactions right there, as we'll go a little bit of a slow motion look into turn number 3, as just Wyatt gets really tight on entry and just is chasing the car up the track, looked like the entire way. Dawson got loose off at turn number 2, which you saw on the in-car with Nick Gunderson, and just Wyatt thought he had a run, overdrove a little bit too much, and thankfully neither car got tore up too bad. I mean, when you wreck on the 5/8, like we mentioned, it can normally be pretty detrimental, but thankfully both drivers were able to keep it out of the wall.
Well, somewhere in that exchange, during that commercial break, Garrett Evans picked up a bunch of spots. Evans went from 4th up into the front row. Randy Marshall's going to leave. Garrett Evans right next to him, and we are just a handful of laps away from our planned break here, Kyler. So this is going to be interesting. I guess the question, does Garrett want to lead going into the break, or does he want to chase coming out of the break?
Well, they just actually came out of the break, so with that lap 27 caution, they decided to call that the break. And before he went to caution, as we got some sparks flying down the front straightaway, that's Nick Gunderson, and the commentator's curse continues. Wow. That's a lot of sparks flying off. But yeah, just coming off of the 3/4 break from that last caution, drivers able to come in and get the work done, and a tough break there for Nick Gunderson on the restart. My guess is probably got into the outside wall, which we've seen happen so often on these restarts, as you just get so lost in the chaos coming off the corners. We'll keep an eye on him back towards the field.
So I got a report that's come in through my radio channel a little bit, and again, the drivers, they come in, you get back out, and you scrub your tires off. Now, part of that's to build some heat in it, but part of them is literally scrubbing the tire itself off. The reports is that Gunderson actually had somebody to the inside of him that really didn't let him get a good scrub coming through where everybody else was single file. Nick was kind of pinched up towards the outside line, and they may not have gotten the right front tire scrubbed off enough that there might have been enough muck on it that it put him right into the fence coming off, and you can see that car just straight up not really turning coming down off the wall.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do because you just get lost in that pack, and it's hard to see all your marks when you're so nose to tail like that. And it really wasn't a hard hit, but it was enough to upset the car and obviously break some of the suspension to cause all the sparks flying. So thankfully it wasn't as hard of a hit and didn't collect anyone else, as he was farther in the pack. But we'll try this restart again. 27 laps to go, and Randy Marshall Jr. now going to jump to the inside line instead of the outside. So playing some games here with Garrett Evans on the restart.
Evans actually falling back just a little bit. That allows Stanford to try to get up to his inside. Garrett's going to have to drive hard to retain the second position. As you look through the rest of the field, it's Constance, Moriarty, and Moore all warring for those spots on back. Evans looks like he's got second secured away from Stanford. And now a car length back from Marshall as we begin the final sprint to the checkered flag here at the Galloway.
Yeah, we go almost 3 wide for a second. Looked like Naima Lang got a little bit of a contact from Trent Moriarty's left rear. Or right rear coming off of turn number 4 that time. Really upset the 18 machine, which allowed Haley Constance to get a good run on the outside of the 12. So Haley having a good run here late, still battling some of the biggest names of racing in the Northwest on the 5/8 mile oval and holding her own, sitting in 4th position right now. And she's clear of Trent, clear of Naima, now going to try to set her sights on the 19 of Thomas Stanford.
See if she can work her way back up into the top 3. Marshall, Evans, and Stanford 1 through 3. Constance, Lang, Moriarty stacked up behind him. What a great group of 6 out in front of this field. As you can see, Garrett starting to barrel in on the inside of Randy Marshall Jr. in the bid for the lead.
Yeah, and you just see how strong that 64 car looks coming off the corner. It never really looks like it ever gets sideways or loose, or just like it never feels like it's out of place. It just looks so calm and just put down on that track, and it gets a really good run here every single time off turn number 2, where Randy's getting a little bit sideways every single time, it seems like, and just not quite getting that drive off.
Yeah, terminology would be he looks like the car's staying underneath him quite well. So no matter where he is picking up the throttle from, it always looks well balanced. Looks like he's always getting his power down smooth to the racetrack without spinning the tires. As he is making a bid for this lead. I know it doesn't look like they're side by side, but Marshall is feeling some really significant pressure from the legend Garrett Evans, and here it comes down the back straightaway.
Yeah, you saw Garrett just get underneath him ever so slightly, maybe a little bit of contact pushing the 25 up the track, and Garrett's going to drive it in deep and really not allow the 25 Randy Marshall Jr. to get any sort of diamond off, but Marshall's going to tuck back to the inside, see if he can get a run coming into turn number 1, but hey, 22 laps to go, new race leader Garrett Evans from 10th.
Evans looking good. You know, it's been a minute or two since he's won on the 5/8 here at Evergreen Speedway. Tons of wins everywhere in the Northwest, but been a few years. So Garrett trying to open this one up and win the Galloway and win the big bucks again. He already got the Robert Osaki Pole Award today for $3,500. Now he's looking for the top prize and more as he looks to open it up on Marshall, and he is doing that quite nicely.
Exactly, and Randy Marshall now has a mirror full and a bumper full of Thomas Stanford in the 19 machine, as Stanford's trying to work his way back up the second spot on the podium, and that 25, like we mentioned, just looks so loose. He's wheeling the car so hard, just probably burned up that right side tire enough to where he really doesn't have enough grip left on it, and that's allowing the 19 at Stanford to get to his inside. 21 laps to go. Great battle for seconds to go down the front straightaway.
What a great showing for Stanford here. Had drifted back to 3rd after leading a really good chunk of this race, and now with the fortitude to come back forward and trying to take 2nd away from a guy who's been really good in the Northwest over the last decade plus in Marshall Jr. They're side by side for 2nd. Advantage Stanford here in the late stages.
Exactly, a great battle here for that 2nd spot. You see the white car, Thomas Stanford, to the inside of the black car. That's Randy Marshall Jr. They got Haley Constance and Naima Lang starting to close in, so the more laps they run side by side, the more it's going to hurt them, because here comes the 78 and the 18 right in the picture that time.
Both of those drivers capable of making their way back and through this field too. Although it looks like Marshall now getting clear of Stanford going into the 2nd corner, so nice rebound there from Randy Marshall Jr. turning Stanford away, and now it's Haley pressuring Stanford for 3rd coming off of corner 4.
Exactly, yeah, Haley Constance having a great run on that 78 machine, and we've seen it all year long. In the 3/8 mile, her car really starts to come in these longer green flag runs. She's normally able to run down the driver in front of her, as Naima Lang coming right across her back bumper. That got really close for a second in the middle of 1 and 2.
We've seen that battle more than a few times this year between Haley and Naima trying to hold off, and Naima's really got the better of her more often than not. Let's see if she can reverse fortune here. At the same time, she still has a chance for a top 3, and here comes Stanford right back after Marshall. This is really, really good. You know, they expand, they contract, they expand, they contract. This could go any direction here with the final 17.
Exactly, yeah, that's what makes the 5/8 mile of Evergreen Speedway so unique, is the different lines you can take through the corners, the different kinds of runs you can get, and they're all equally as fast, or can be equally built up as fast, and it's a ton of fun to watch from a spectator standpoint, because here you have 4 drivers almost all running 4 different lines, and they're all running nose to tail down the front straightaway. But you see them in the corner, they're fanning out, and then it comes together on the front straightaway, and a huge run that time for Thomas Stanford.
Nice move, Stanford, inside out, down the back straightaway. The numbers are even with each other. They're wheel to wheel. Marshall trying to use the high groove to hang on to it. Stanford down low. At the line, it is still Marshall. Now, can he get down and take the line away from Stanford? And it looks like Stanford woke the car up pretty significantly to get it in the bottom, and that cost him a bunch of ground.
Yeah, exactly. He looked like he just coming into the corner, didn't quite go in with the same amount of confidence he had the lap before, and that allowed the 78 and 18 to really close his back bumper. But it just took that one next corner for him to dive it in deep and drive it up the track, and now trying to get that run off again on Randy Marshall Jr. See what he can do. 14 laps to go, and this is a fun battle right here with inside the top 5.
That might be a matter of experience, too, and time on the 5/8. Okay, I made this work once, but can I consistently do it over and over again without taking out the guy in front of me? Because, face it, if you pull in with all that speed and it doesn't stick, he's taking 2 cars out, his own and the guy that has been racing him pretty clean up in front of the field. So might have opted for discretion as a better part of valor, but I wonder if that's with 2 to go, if he doesn't try a little bit more, drive it just a little bit deeper.
Exactly, yeah, it's all about timing, and still got 13 laps to go. Thomas knows he has a few more chances to build up some more runs, and you think that he might think he has the faster car at this point, the types of runs he's been able to get on Randy Marshall Jr., but just hasn't been able to complete the puzzle completely in that 19 machine as we kind of focus in on the 18 of Naaman Lang, the 78 of Haley Constance, as that battle's gotten really tight for that 4th spot.
Those 2 cars are nose to tail. Good job. Nama's driven her clean. We've seen a lot of good clean racing here over the course of this main event. Haley doing a good job. I mean, that car wash is a little wide off of 2, but gets down right away, takes the nose off the air of Lang. He'll have to back up a little bit into turn number 3 and try another run.
Yeah, and we'll check back up with your race leader. There is Garrett Evans in that famous number blue 64 machine going down the front straightaway just 11 more times around for the legend. Garrett Evans goes into turns 1 and 2, and that 64 car just looks nice in place, like it's on rails almost.
Evans blue looking good out in front of the field, as it's been so many times the Pacific Northwest here at Evergreen Speedway in particular, as he cleans up and completes another lap down the front straightaway. This is looking awfully good for the legend. Let's see if he can pull it home with 10 to go.
Yep, just 10 laps to go. Randy Marshall Jr. still holding on a second over Thomas Stanford, as that battle has been fun to watch between those 2 drivers, along with Haley Constance, Naaman Lang. So, I mean, these 5 drivers looking ahead. We have the Summer Showdown not too far away. Pro Late Models, they'll be in action on Friday night. Super Late Models on Saturday night. And a lot of these drivers you see here tonight, plus a lot more, will be in action. And it's giving them the good experience that they're going to need. And it's going to be, I think, a little bit of foreshadowing of the kind of race we're going to see coming up.
Huge money at the line at the Showdown. Meanwhile, again, there's Stanford to the inside of Marshall, looking for that runner-up position. This has been epic between these 2. Let's see if Thomas keeps his foot in it. And again, last time when he had gotten even with him, he had backed out of it big time going into turn number 1. See if he keeps his foot in a little bit further this time and tries to complete the pass. Marshall on the high side, incoming is Stanford low, and yeah, he did not blow that car up nearly as much this time by.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe just getting those few more laps of confidence in you. I mean, when you're a rookie driver, you just learn everything each lap, and you saw the 19 get really loose that time off of turn number 2. It's not quite able to stay to Randy Marshall Jr.'s door. So Thomas Stanford losing that run. He's going to check back up high this time in 3 and 4 and try again down in turns 1 and 2. Meanwhile, right behind them, Haley Constance has been able to hold off everything Naaman Lang has thrown at her. So Haley Constance doing a great job in that 4th spot, but we're going to keep our eyes focused right here. Thomas Stanford trying to build up that run again on the inside of Randy Marshall Jr.
What great experience for these 2 younger drivers in Stanford. Stanford in trying to figure out how to get a position away from a veteran, and Constance in learning how to keep a veteran in behind her. Haley has just been a brick wall there in 4th. There has been none shall pass as she comes through 2 and through 4 once again. Meanwhile, on the other side, and again, kudos to Marshall. Marshall has run Stanford clean lap after lap after lap, and Stanford's done a good job showing the right amount of car control. He hasn't bumped into him, hasn't taken him out, pushing his car to the limits that he feels safe to. Now he tries to kind of sneak up high, watch him duck down low coming off of 4, see if he can outbrake him going into turn 1 this time.
Yep, just 5 laps to go, so he knows he's really starting to run out of time, as it takes normally 3 to 4 laps to build up that momentum to try to make a move. But right here, coming off the corner, we see how loose that 25 gets, and Thomas Stanford getting a huge run down the back straightaway into 3, not quite there, just not enough to stick his nose in yet. But I mean, that 19 car is fast on the bottom, but the 25, Randy Marshall Jr. able to carry that outside momentum enough, side by side down the front straightaway. We'll see how hard Thomas Stanford drives it in with just 4 laps to go.
Marshall's doing a really good job. He can't really keep that car down as much as he'd like, but he's doing a good job of keeping his speed up and his momentum going, coming through the middle, knowing that the car's got a little push, that it's a little bit loose at this point in time. And then Stanford has not been able to complete the pass when he's gotten underneath him. So Marshall's got a shot if he can just consistently keep in the throttle coming off the outside of that corner to keep Stanford at bay.
Yeah, that right side, that right rear tire on Marshall's car has got to be screaming because he is using it up every single time he gets off the corner, just hanging that right side, that tail side out enough, and he's been able to keep the speed up. Just 3 laps to go. He's really, I hope he doesn't have a restart because there's not going to be much grip left on that right rear tire.
No, not in the least. As you can see, the back end of that car wanting to step out something serious as they're working in through slower traffic. It is Randy Marshall in the 25, Thomas Stanford in the 19. Coming up on Mike Jensen's 521, and this is going to be a little break for Marshall, as if he can just stay with him for a second longer, there you go, gets one more corner worth of breathing room. As time's running out, one more time around for Garrett Evans.
Yeah, huge, almost a complete straightaway lead over second place Randy Marshall Jr., Thomas Stanford in third, but yep, Garrett Evans up front, fastest in qualifying, led, I think, one of the practice sessions as well, and here he comes down the back straightaway into turn 3 for the final time.
Looking good, Garrett Evans. Coming through 3 and off of 4, he will win the Mark Galloway Shootout here at Evergreen Speedway in dominating fashion. Well done, G-Man. Give second, good run, Randy Marshall Jr., Thomas Stanford, impressive taking third.
Exactly, then we got Haley Constance coming home 4th, able to hold off Naima Lang, who came home 5th. Phenomenal drive by Haley Constance, never went outside the top 5 the entire race, so did what she needed to do, and great job to her. But again, phenomenal day for the 64 of Garrett Evans. Top time award. Gonna bring home the big check now, so all that extra money will be raised in Robert Osaki's name. A lot of it going home to Garrett Evans tonight.
And again, kudos Trent Moriarty for putting the effort through to that. Try to put money in the pockets of more racers. That's a big deal. That'll keep us racing throughout the summer and means all these guys have got a little extra bucks in their pocket as they're going to gear up for a lot of late model racing coming up in July, amongst other things, the Showdown and a pro late model race coming up in a couple of weeks as well. But for the time being, we need to go talk to your winner. Let's go down to the Angel of the Winds platform, and East Wenatchee, Washington's Garrett Evans takes the trophy.
Fantastic race out there tonight. Starting 8th, finishing 1st, fastest qualifier. What didn't you do tonight?
Well, I didn't take my Geritol, but besides that, hey, I just want to really thank my crew chief, Glenn Knutson, and my spotter, Chris Knutson, and my Canadian crew guy named Glenn also. It's been a long time since I've been here. I really appreciate the fans, everybody standing behind me over all the years. Like I said, it's been a long time. I really used to like this place. It was one of my favorite places. My dad being handicapped, he could always come here in the handicap section, and it meant a lot to me to win tonight. I have a couple of guys in my car that didn't make it because of COVID. Billy Helms was a car owner of mine I drove for back in North Carolina in the mid-90s. I got him on the hood, and Doug Betterall got him on the back. Never give up. And appreciate everybody.
Welcome back out to the Galloway. What was that like?
That was fun. Yeah, I don't know if we went too hard at the beginning, but just lost a turn and couldn't get off the corner, and had a race to the 19, a little rougher than I wanted, but I wanted the second place.
How did it feel, that final few laps running there with Thomas?
It was fun. Good, hard racing. I mean, I was pinching him down, and I think we got together once, but I mean, it was fun. Just can't thank Chad Holiday, my parents, Pat and Ellie Sensney, Chet's Truck Repair, Dawson Truck Repair, Hooked Up Towing, and everyone that just came to help me this weekend.
Well, you look good out there, Thomas. What was that like?
Oh, that was incredible. I mean, this is such a fun racetrack. First practice today was my first time on the racetrack. So I was a little nervous about that, but I had Kelly Tanner spotting for me in practice, talking me through it, and that was such an immense help. And then, you know, in the race, I got to follow Garrett Evans around. So there's a lot of people here with a lot of laps, and to finish third, you know, up here with Garrett and Randy Marshall, 2 of the Northwest best. I'm just so happy to be here. I'm so thankful. I'm so humbled that I was able to make it happen, and due to my crew and everybody supporting me. So I'm going to pinch myself tomorrow. I said if we finish all 100 laps, I'll be happy. If we get a top 5, that's a win. And here we are on the podium. So it's incredible. It was so much fun.
What was it like those final few laps? You were running there with Randy Marshall, looking all around. How did that feel?
I'm glad I didn't wreck us. Like I said, this is my first time on the racetrack, so I was just trying to be cautious. I was definitely faster than him, but he was really doing a really good job of pinching me down, and I couldn't get drive off. I probably should have just knocked him up the racetrack a little bit, but I was being nice. But I got to thank all my sponsors: Easy Street Cold Mix Asphalt, D.A. Davidson Wealth Management, Hager, Elevate Racing Media. He's always snapping cool shots of me. Holmberg Dentistry, my buddy Tony Webb. And big shout out to the Tanner family. I called Tyler 3-4 times this week, called Kelly 5 times this week. Leanne was there in the pit stop holding the fan on me, so they're big supporters of mine, and I really appreciate them.
Well, what a phenomenal way to end the show. Awesome race there on the 5/8 mile and a ton of action on the 3/8 mile as well.
That was great. Finally got some good weather. Great Galloway. I mean, that was fantastic. Those top 5, all the talent that was in there and how close they were running, and the fact that we had them side by side as many laps as we did without actually changing the position for a while between Marshall and Stanford. Those guys got a lot to be proud about, and I think that sets us up for an awesome July.
Exactly. Yeah, before we get there, this segment was brought to you by Central Welding Supply. Central Welding Supply's mission of excellence. Service hasn't changed since 1975. Locally owned family business providing gases, safety, and welding supplies. Central Welding Supply's expert staff makes a difference. Find their 25 locations at centralweldingsupply.com, as they're an awesome supporter of all racing in the Northwest, and definitely go show them some love. But like you mentioned, July, ton of events coming up.
Well, we'll start it out. The next time here on Home Track Heroes, it's going to be our July 4th Spectacular. And they're going to be needing some welding equipment to put cars back together because we're demo during, we're bumping to pass. Mr. Dizzy's doing a stunt of some kind. The boats are racing. The bus is racing. We'll have some midgets, race cars, and more. The next time you can come to Evergreen Speedway July 9th, Pro Late Models on the 3/8. Street stocks, mini stocks, Legends, WMRA, and then we get to Figure 8 Nationals, and then we get to the Showdown coming up the 22nd, 23rd. It's a great month coming up.
Exactly, yeah. July 22nd, July 23rd. Definitely mark that on your calendar. Summer Showdown, Friday, Saturday. Next time you're able to see cars on the 5/8 mile, and it's going to be a show you're not going to miss. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Home Track Heroes. My name is Kyler Hope. That was Caleb Hart. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching Evergreen Speedway's Home Track Heroes on CW11. Join us next week for more great racing from Evergreen Speedway.